Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. I am Chair Janelle Wilkins, and the date is Wednesday, February 18th. We have quite a number of bills that we will be hearing today, and I do want to remind committee members that tomorrow we will be voting after committee in terms of your schedules and planning, and that'll be our first set of votes for the week. For the session, I should say. So we'll start with our first bill, Delegate Smith, House Bill 534 on non-public schools transcripts prohibition. And welcome back to the Ways and Means Committee. Former member.
I am back home. Hello, everyone. For the record, Delegate Stephanie Smith here to present House Bill 534. This will be only me speaking because you've passed this bill 2 consecutive years. And so essentially what it does is it really closes a gap for private school students who sometimes due to no fault of their own, generally their parents pay for school. If there is an instance where they no longer can afford to go to private school and have to go to public school, it prohibits the private school from withholding their transcript so that they can be in the appropriate grade level that they're supposed to be in when they go back to public school. We actually passed a law in 2021 preventing colleges from withholding transcripts due to non-payment, and it was not on my radar at the time that K through 12 private schools were actually withholding transcripts. So I feel if we could bring relief to adults who are electing to go to college, I think it's important to bring relief to children who are required to go to school and be educated so that they can be in the appropriate grade upon transfer. Approximately 24 affected young people have families contact MSDE annually, and I suspect those are only people that know to contact the Maryland State Department of Education. So I'm sure this is impacting more, and unfortunately, with the instability in our economy and loss of federal jobs, there might be people in a position to not be able to pay for a private school that had never been in that position before. So I think this is a bill essentially about fairness and about not interrupting the educational trajectory of a child. And one of our colleagues here in the legislature, her own niece had to repeat parts of 10th and 11th grade and 12th grade because her private school would not send her transcripts. And I just believe we should prevent that type of hardship for the young people of our state. And so I hope that you will give careful and ultimately favorable reports to House Bill 534. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Delegate. A quick question, is this bill supported by any amazing major legislative caucus in the
Oh, you know what? Hold on. I'm a little under the weather, Madam Chair. This is also, for the very first time, a Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland priority bill. So I just want to lift that up for your awareness on this holy day.
Thank you for bringing this very important bill. Any questions for Delegate Smith on House Bill 534?
Thank you.
All right, seeing none, that ends the hearing on House Bill 534. We will now go to House Bill 505, and Delegate Smith, you do have one person signed up favorably, Charlamar Douglas.
Okay, so again, for the record, Delegate Stephanie Smith. I'm here to present, hold on. Let me give you House Bill 505. Now you might say this seems like it's doing something similar to the other bill. As we can see, transcripts are but one way to evaluate if someone has completed coursework. Grades that are not official transcripts can still convey the last completed coursework. And so what this bill does is it creates an opportunity for academic record documentation to be provided in a way other than an official transcript for the purposes of communicating the last completed classwork at a private institution. And so this is just another tool in the toolbox of ensuring that we're not hindering the ability for young people to get the education mobility they deserve for all the coursework they've completed to date. And so, yeah, it's very much a simple bill, just to provide alternative documentation to the official transcript. So I do hope you give careful consideration and ultimately a favorable report to House Bill 505.
Greetings all. My name is Cheryl Lamar Douglas, and I'm with the Maryland Alliance for Racial Equity in Education, a coalition of education advocacy, civil rights, and community-based organizations committed to eliminating racial disparities in Maryland's education system. We support House Bill 505, which would allow schools to accept certain unofficial documents to satisfy academic records requirements for student transfers. This bill addresses a critical barrier that disproportionately impacts Maryland's most vulnerable students, those experiencing homelessness, housing instability, foster care transitions, family crisis, immigration challenges, and economic hardships. When schools refuse to accept unofficial documentation and instead require only official transcripts, they create unnecessary delays that keep students out of classrooms, disrupt their education, and compound the trauma they are already experiencing. HB 505 recognizes that unofficial documents such as report cards, progress reports, previous school records held by families, or even documentation from previous teachers can provide sufficient information to place a student appropriately while official records are being obtained. Schools can and should verify unofficial documents later, but allowing immediate enrollment based on available documentation ensures that students do not lose critical instructional time. This approach is consistent with the federal protections under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, which requires schools to enroll students experiencing homelessness immediately, even if they lack complete records. HB 505 is a practical, compassionate solution to a problem that harms Maryland's most vulnerable students. It does not compromise academic standards or data integrity. It simply acknowledges the reality that some students cannot produce official documentation quickly, and that reality should not cost them their education.
Thank you so much for bringing this bill and for your testimony. Do we have any questions? All right, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 505. Thank you, Delegate. Next up is the sponsor for HB 627 here. I know that he also has a briefing at the same time. So we'll go to Delegate Solomon, House Bill 742.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's nice to be back 2 days in a row. For the record, Delegate Solomon presenting on House Bill 742, and it is just me because similar to my fine friend from former appropriations colleague, you all have passed this bill a couple of times before. So this is a bill, this is a very simple bill to literally just extend the life of the mandated appropriation. I think this is the only bill I have this year that has a fiscal note over $10,000, but it is probably one of the best returns on investment that we can get. This is to extend, again, the mandate for the growing opportunities for family childcare, and I hope that you got a chance to see the really wonderful Baltimore Banner article that lifted up, again, what I think is really one of the best success stories we have. That was from February 1st. Headline, this Maryland program opened nearly 300 daycares in 3 years. That amounts to 2,000 more childcare slots in a state where demand far outpaces supply. So for what is a relatively small sum of money, this program at its core is about helping folks who are more than likely usually already in the childcare space as employees or interested in opening their own family childcare businesses, and essentially giving them the tools from the business side of things, because we know educators often bring a lot of amazing skills to the table. Some of them are not always, don't always know how to run a business. And at its core, childcare is still, you have to know how to meet your payroll, you have to know how to budget. And that's what this program does, is it provides all the wraparound supports. It provides business training, connections to the Chamber of Commerce, startup materials, startup costs. There's a quote in the article. It literally used to take 12 to 18 months to open a family childcare business. This has helped reduce that down to nearly 6 months. And we have seen in a field where I know we are constantly hearing about closures and loss of slots. This program has helped grow the family childcare industry. It has helped bring more folks into childcare who've wanted to become small business owners. They're often mostly women, often immigrants, women of color. This program started as a small subset in Montgomery County. And back in 2021, we launched a pilot to bring it statewide. And since then, we've seen it grow like gangbusters and be incredibly successful. So there is money currently in this year's budget. Again, it's only $450,000 a year. The governor did include it in his budget. So this would extend the mandate through 2030 to ensure that, that it continues to be successful.
Thank you, Delegate. I did see the amazing article in the banner, and I encourage all my colleagues to take a look. It's great work, and it's wonderful to see our work extremely successful in growing the childcare industry. So thank you for your leadership on it. Are there any questions? Delegate Ebersol.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you for your tireless support of childcare across the state. I'm trying to read the fiscal note, and it looks like we lifted the end of it at the end of last year, and the fiscal note then says that it's in perpetuity. The $450,000 is there. Are they incorrect? Or I'm just trying to get that straightened out a little bit with myself.
Let me pull up the fiscal note here.
Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No. And Delegate Ebersol, thank you for the question. And to your point, I mean, it's total partnership. Your committee helped us draft this legislation back in 2021. So appreciate that. It should just be grant funding through the bill establishes a mandated appropriation for FY28 through 2030.
Okay. Thanks.
I wonder if they're saying.
I'm just going to read you what it says, and let's straighten her out then. I could look at the bill too, I suppose. That wouldn't hurt, would it? Chapters 180 through 184, 2024.
Oh, I see what you're saying at the bottom of page 2.
Yeah, just right there in the analysis.
They're saying, given the historical support for the program, even in years in which funding has not been mandated, this analysis assumes that even in the absence of the bill, level funding would have been provided.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm glad that we've created a program that that folks think will continue in perpetuity, but we want to make sure we're not at the whims of the annual budget process.
Going to keep the ball rolling here.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, that ends the hearing on House Bill 742.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
again.
Thank you.
All right, up next, Delegate Acevero, House Bill 627.
Good afternoon, and thank you. For the record, I'm Delegate Gabriel Acevero, and I'm here to present House Bill 627, the Commission on History, Culture, and Civics in Education, which at the heart of this bill is the powerful belief that every child in our state deserves an education that is honest, inclusive, and complete. And so House Bill 627 strengthens that commitment by establishing the Commission on History, Culture, and Civics in Education, which will make recommendations to the State Board of Education and the Maryland State Department of Education to ensure that we are being inclusive in the way that we teach, not just history, but we're also being inclusive of civics education and the contributions of so many groups to our state and country. And this is clearly laid out in the bill's purpose and structure. And I think it comes at a very important moment where we are witnessing growing efforts to essentially censor and restrict parts of American history, whether it's Black American history, whether it's Latino, Asian American and Pacific Islander, Indigenous history. This is critical, not just at this moment, but it's critical for our state, a state that prides itself in the diversity that I just spoke of. And so HB 627 would create a commission whose membership reflects the diversity of Maryland, including representation from Indigenous tribes, the Latino community, African American, Asian American and Pacific Islander, LGBTQIA+ communities, the disability community, educators, and higher education. And this commission will then examine history, culture, and civics, including the contributions of the groups that I just mentioned. And it also provides a kind of accountability and transparency that we want to see in our education system, considering all of the actions that we've taken following the blueprint for Maryland's future. But I want to just say this because this bill is a reintroduction, and I know there are some folks who are definitely interested in testifying on this bill today, but unfortunately couldn't make it. But I want to share just some testimonies of some students who were here last year from my own county who came out, trekked all the way to our state's capital to advocate for this bill. students from, schools all across the state, but I wanted to highlight Yvonne So, who spoke about how Maryland serves one of the most diverse student populations in our nation, yet our curriculum still fails to fully reflect the experiences and contributions of AAPI Marylanders. I'm also reminded of folks like Miles Chen, a 5th grader who testified last year on this bill. And he said that this is his 3rd year coming forward before this committee for cultural representation to ensure that all communities, not just AAPI, but African American, Latino, LGBTQIA+, women, indigenous people, that their histories, their contributions to our state and country is reflected in curriculum. His older brother, Jasper Chen, who was also present here last year, is an 8th grader. And he described what it feels like to be invisible in the classroom when your history is missing. He also shared the cost of his advocacy. Every time we ask students to show up, as we did last year, to advocate on this bill, they miss school, they miss opportunities, responsibilities. Just to speak for 2 minutes to impress upon all of us the importance of HB 627. This bill does not dictate curriculum, and I want to be clear about that, but instead it creates an expert-driven, transparent process to ensure our standards evolve to reflect the full truth of Maryland's history and lived experiences of all communities. This is not just about the history of the groups that I just mentioned, it's about civics. I know there are some educators in this room. I don't need to tell you that civics is not something that's uniformly taught in our schools across our state and this country, and we need to ensure that our kids are being exposed to civics education. And the reality of it is that we found from a lot of young people, particularly those that choose the college career track, that oftentimes their first exposure to civics or to government is when they are in college and taking a political science or government course. We know that our young people should be exposed to this type of information. They can register to vote at ages, particularly in our state, 16, 17, and we want to ensure that they have the civics education so that they can be full participants in our community. HB 627 helps ensure that every Maryland student can see themselves in the story of this state, and that all student graduates with a fuller understanding of the people, the contributions, and the democratic ideals that make our state and country great. So for these reasons, I ask for a favorable report on House Bill 627, and my hope is that we would also listen to the voices of Miles Chen and his brother and so many others who came last year in the hopes that we would get this bill passed and that we would not fail them this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on this bill? Okay, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 627. Next bill, Delegate Long, House Bill 655.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Vice Chair. For the record, I'm Delegate Bob Long, here to testify on House Bill 655. It's student behavior, parent and guardian notice required counseling. And this is a bill that we've kind of worked on for several years. It has to do with bullying in school. There was someone here that actually testified, says how much difference a child's education is changed when the parents are involved. And that's what this bill is. We want to make sure that the parents stay connected to the children, especially if they're bullying, they're speaking out. There's something going on. Most bullies are reaching out for some help. Maybe it's the parents, I don't know. But this bill, I think, I know would definitely help and reach out to the parents to make sure that they're aware of what their child's doing. All we can do is do the best we can. I hear all the time about bullying. In one of our schools, we had a kid who was bullied so bad he brought his gun back to school. Luckily, they caught him before he did anything. A bully can actually do harm for a person's whole life. I was bullied as a child in high school, but I took the other direction. I stood my ground and, I did what I had to do. Anyway, I would ask for a favorable vote. I know you guys have heard this bill several times, and I would ask for a favorable vote and consideration.
Thank you so much, Delegate. We appreciate this bill. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 655. Delegate Maricoon North, House Bill 539.
Good afternoon, colleagues, Madam Chair, and this illustrious Ways and Means Committee. I come before you today, Delegate Bernice Maricoon North, representing District 14, to offer testimony in support of House Bill 539, Child Care Centers Teacher Qualifications Alterations. This is a bill that has passed the House last year. It's fundamentally probably in the same form, and it establishes a structured probationary pathway for individuals to become child care workers in a center-based program. For those who are new to the committee, under the current regulations, child care teachers must provide documentation of a high school diploma or a GED, complete 90 hours of coursework, and pass required health and background clearances, as well as complete safety training before starting that role. While the standards are important, it creates an unintended barrier for qualified individuals who are prepared to work but might not have the access to the educational documents for a variety of reasons. So HB 539 is an equitable solution that's going to allow individuals to enter into the workforce through probationary status. And I'm currently working with MSDE to get better guardrails as to what probationary status looks like. So you'll see a letter of information in the floor system, but we are currently working on a solution to address the probationary status to make sure that if there is an additional alternative pathway, they're still doing everything they can to meet the qualifications to become a child care teacher. The urgency of this bill remains clear and relevant. According to the Office of Comptroller, Maryland has seen a decline in child care providers between 2020 and 2024. And anecdotally, I'm still hearing the rapid pace of child care teachers leaving the workforce. And so this is a bill that's trying to address beefing up our workforce. It's an equitable solution, it's a balanced solution to try to rebuild our workforce, and I'm asking for your favorable report on HB 539. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Any questions on HB 539? Okay, seeing none, thank you for the bill.
Thank you.
Next up, House Bill 740, Delegate Stinnett. I do see you have two witnesses.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Colleagues, this bill is jointly assigned with the Health Committee, and so we have Delegate Ross, who is present, and we may be joined by Delegate Hutchinson and White. Let's pause for just one moment to give about 30 more seconds if they're able to make it. Okay, let's go ahead and proceed with the testimony. You can go ahead, Delegate. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I am respectfully asking for a favorable report on House Bill 740. House Bill 740 is about prevention. It's about access. This bill is about ensuring that young people have meaningful access to mental health support in the place where they spend most of their day, which is school. We know that anxiety, depression, trauma, and other behavioral health challenges are realities many of our young people face. We also know that early indication and intervention can change and even save the trajectory of a young person's life. This bill is deeply personal to me. In 2024, my cousin Kayla R. Johnson died by suicide. If you knew Kayla, she could light up any room she walked into. She graduated from Morgan State University, was active in her sorority and band, and was vibrant and very well accomplished. She was traveling and working on film projects. From the outside, everything in Kayla's life appeared to be going well. What we did not know was that she had been struggling quietly and for some time. It wasn't until her funeral that the magnitude of this issue truly hit me. During the service, Bishop James E. Nelson Jr. spoke about the importance of mental health and having a safe space. He told everyone they were in a safe space and asked those who have ever struggled with their mental health or had thoughts of suicide to stand. It was astonishing to see hundreds of people rise, mostly young teens and young adults. In that moment, it became clear to me that we must do more to ensure our children feel safe, supported, and equipped with the resources to care for their mental health. Students should not have to reach a crisis point before help is available. They should not face barriers, long wait lists, or stigma to receive care. When support is accessible within schools, we normalize mental health care, reduce barriers, and create earlier pathways to intervention. I want to acknowledge that this bill is a significant ask, and there have been similar bills in prior sessions. Expanding access to mental health services requires funding, workforce capacity, coordination, and thoughtful implementation. I am open to amendments that address such issues. My goal is to work collaboratively to find a solution that is sustainable, responsible, and workable for school systems while still meaningfully expanding access to mental health services for students. In honor of my cousin, Kayla R. Johnson, I respectfully ask for a favorable report. My apologies. And I look forward to working with you and the interest parties to make this bill as strong and as effective as possible. Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My apologies.
No need to apologize, Delegate. We offer our love and our condolences. Very sorry to hear about your cousin's passing.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Our names are Kier and Danita Johnson, and we are the parents of Kayla R. Johnson, our beautiful, bright daughter who transitioned on January 6, 2024, after losing her battle with mental health by suicide. There are no words that fully capture what it means to lose a child. Kayla was more than a statistic. She was kind, creative, intelligent, and deeply loved. She had dreams. She had friends. She had a future. And yet, she was carrying pain that was heavier than any young person should ever have to bear. Kayla's mental struggles were apparent for many years. She had highs and lows, and there were times where she made excellent progress. We held onto those moments of hope. We truly believed she was going to be okay, but progress in mental health is not always linear, and support cannot disappear when things seem better. It has to remain steady, accessible, and consistent. Like many parents, we tried to help. We listened, we searched for resources, we reached out, but assessing consistent, meaningful mental health support was harder than it should have been. At times, appointments were limited. Wait lists are long. School counselors and social workers cared deeply, but there were and continue to be stretched thin, responsible for far too many students to provide the level of ongoing support that children like Kayla needed. Mental health struggles do not always look like a crisis in the beginning. Sometimes they look like exhaustion, withdrawal, anxiety, a slipping grade, a quiet sadness. If more comprehensive mental health services had been embedded in the school environment, accessible daily, normalized, and proactive, perhaps intervention could have happened sooner and more consistently. We will always ask ourselves, what if? What if there had been more support? What if help had been available at the exact moment she needed it? What if we treated mental health in our schools with the same urgency as physical health? This bill cannot bring our daughter back, but it can help prevent another family from experiencing this unimaginable loss. It can ensure that students do not have to wait until they are in crisis to be seen. It can make schools places not only of academic learning, but of emotional safety and early intervention. Kayla mattered, her life mattered, and if sharing her story helps protect even one more child, then her voice continues to make a difference. We respectfully urge you to give this bill a favorable report. Please strengthen mental health services in all Maryland public schools so that no more parents have to stand where we are standing. Thank you for your time and for listening.
Thank you so much, and once again, our condolences, and we are grateful that you are turning this tragedy into legislation and advocacy. We did have someone signed up virtually. I'm just checking to see if they are here on the Zoom. Okay, we'll let that person in, then we'll go to questions.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. If you're able to turn your camera on.
So I shall.
There we go. Thank you. You can begin.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee, for this opportunity to address you. My name is Gail Martin. I am a retired school social worker, and I'm representing NASW Maryland chapter today in our support for the services in schools that are very badly needed. Kayla's mom is right that no parent should have to experience what she's experienced, and that our excellent team inside schools is stretched thin. We thank the General Assembly for their support for the Maryland Consortium for Coordinated Community Supports, which has worked hard to bring outside agencies in to meet some of those needs for the past several years. However, there is no one individual among our fantastic team of counselors and school psychologists and school social workers who is doing only mental health. Psychologists are also doing testing. School counselors are also doing college and career readiness, and school social workers are also trying to meet the many other social needs that students have that interfere with their learning. So we would love to have someone in the building who could just meet those needs. However, we are asking for one amendment to this. The delegate alluded to it when he did his introduction of the bill. There's a workforce shortage of mental health providers, and so we've respectfully asked for an amendment that would expand beyond licensed professional counselors as individuals who could be hired to fill these needs. So we're asking that it would be anyone who is licensed to provide mental health within the state. I thank you very much for your time and attention, and with that amendment, we certainly ask for a favorable report for this bill.
Thank you for your testimony. We will now go to questions. Actually, before we do that, I want to acknowledge that we do have members from the Health Committee here, Delegate Ross, who I mentioned. If you can mute yourself, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. We are joined by the Health Committee, Delegate Ross, who I mentioned before, Delegate Hutchison's here, and Delegate White Holland is also here. So thank you to the committee members for joining us on this legislation. We're going to questions. Delegate Ebersol.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I think we will all say this, but we all believe it. Very sorry for your loss and clearly the pain it has caused you. I can't imagine. And I appreciate your concern. I am having a little trouble because I'm hearing several different terms, and I should be pretty well up on this, but I know that as a teacher, we had a school psychologist in the building, not always, but often. And I heard Ms. Martin talk about having social workers in the building, and now you're talking about a therapist. Are these all different people to you? In other words, if there's a school psychologist in the building, do you also say that we should have a therapist there as well?
No, as was speaking to Ms. Martin, I would like to see, which I'm definitely open in favor as far as with their amendment, is just to kind of open it up a little bit more as far as to other specialized individuals that can cater to someone going through a mental health crisis.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to necessarily. Initially it was specific to mental health therapists. However, after speaking to Ms. Martin and other organizations, that we should expand it because we feel that it's different levels as far as mental health crisis. So it's different levels. So we'll want to bring in as far as other specialists or other particular needs to kind of concentrate on making sure that the students get what they need.
Thank you for your open-mindedness on that. We have all kinds of health professionals. And one more, if I may. Thank you. Have you given any thought to the fact that students in private schools also need this sort of care, and private schools that are accepting state funds, perhaps we should ask them also to meet this requirement? Right.
I agree as well. I kind of stuck it to the basics, kind of keep it consistent in Maryland public schools. But yes, if there are private schools that, of course, receive state funding, I think they should be included as well.
This is not a question my colleagues are unaccustomed to hearing me ask, so there you go.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Delegate.
Delegate Wims.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing the bill. Just yesterday, I was shaken to the core, and a lot of my colleagues in District 39, because allegedly, we have to say, a 6-year-old died by suicide. We say allegedly because the police are still looking. But that to me would be like a first grade or a second grade at 6 years old. So my question, again, thank you for bringing the bill. Could this bill be from like K through 12? That's the question.
Yes, it'd be K through 12. I was discussing actually a couple of days ago that probably more of the concentration of support will be probably more likely, middle school and high school, but we're not ignoring the elementary school. We know that, there has been some cases, but not as many as middle school to high schools, particularly even high school. But yes, it'll be fluid throughout, proposed to be fluid throughout K through 12.
Thank you again. Thank you for bringing the bill, and my condolences to the family.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Delegate Maricopa North.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Delegate, for bringing the bill. I know you and I have had conversations early on, so I appreciate your passion for turning a tragedy into hopefully triumph, right, with introducing this bill. I want to talk about the fact that a lot of different school districts do mental health differently. They might even include like nonprofits coming into the school to provide it. So are you open to, just in terms of conversation, expanding who provides the services to nonprofits or however the schools can meet the needs of meet the mental health needs of our students? Or are we just talking about the therapist and, as you're pointing out, possibly psychologists and other single providers?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely open to it. I mean, we can look at that. I guess the whole premise of course, this bill is to make sure that, the youth get the services that they need. And we know that these services can come from, many different capacities and many different arenas. But yeah, if getting qualified, nurturing support as far as what they need, I'm open to that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this bill? Delegate Ross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate, for bringing this bill. And to Kayla's parents, this is a terrible tragedy, and I'm so sorry, truly, for your loss. Thank you for being here. I did think about this, and I think this is a great bill. I know on a practical level, we need to figure out, we need to be able to pay for it. We need the school districts to be able to support this. And of course, there's a workforce shortage. So I'm glad to hear, Delegate, that you're open to some creative ways to get around those issues.
Right.
I did notice, though, Anne Arundel, for example, they talk about splitting days across multiple schools. It looks like St. Mary's County Public Schools may also do something like that. Does the bill, I know right now it calls for a full-time individual. Would you be open to, I just don't want to see finances become a barrier to passing this bill. Would you be open to some kind of model like that where there could be a part-time counselors who could, or therapists who could float 2-3 days a week at one school and then float to another school just to address the workforce issue?
I did have some thoughts about that because I know that, of course, this, we're talking about fiscally something that can, have a major impact. If we can, maybe talk offline as far as in terms of seeing how that looks, because the main reason why I think, I really, thought about this is because, of course, we have, of course, nurses at pretty much every school. However, in terms of Baltimore City, at times, nurses are what you describe as far as being sort of in a network, and they're not able to really be able to be at a school on a day, on a full day basis. And to me, a child could be looking for that particular service at one of those off days that could be critical to making them the decision whether or not if they want to live or not. So that's where, as far as being sort of flexible into that area, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
No, it does. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
And then my second question, if I may, Madam Chair, was related to the funding, or just, I'm sorry, just the extent of the services. So this bill is talking about mostly psychotherapy, so like talk therapy. This would not involve, or might it involve group therapy? Mental health treatment can be extensive. There can be a need for group therapy where they bring in the siblings, they bring in the parents. There could be a need for, of course, I don't think mental health therapists can prescribe medication in Maryland. So I think Delegate Miraku may have alluded to this, there could be a need for partnerships with some local medical doctors or hospitals to support students who may have some more extensive trauma and need to involve other types of therapy.
No, I agree. I mean, there could be. Like I said, I think I just would like for this bill to actually be sort of that, that first responder. You know what I mean? To make sure that we're able to flush out as far as what the issues are and then assess to be able to either, if it's group therapy or, bringing the parents or bringing family in and so forth. But at least this will be the first step as far as to be able to, to respond to that critical need.
I agree. Yeah. Thank you very much, Delegate. Thank you again.
Thank you.
To Kayla's parents.
All right. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you again for bringing this bill and this solution so that we can try to make sure that what happened to your family doesn't happen to any other Maryland families. So thank you, we appreciate it. And Delegate, we'll follow up on how we can move forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and
All
committee.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. All right, next up is House Bill 800, Delegate Wallach. And I do have Mickey Chandra, Christine Larson, and Lauren Lamb signed up.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and esteemed members of the Ways and Means Committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Sarah Wallach, here to present House Bill 800, the Student Wellbeing and Flourishing Act. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of this bill. Under current law, the Blueprint of Maryland's Future's fourth pillar references and prioritizes behavioral health for services for students. Presently, some school districts are interpreting behavioral health in a very limited fashion to include only services related to mental illness and behavioral intervention supports, while other school districts are interpreting behavioral health to include not only these crisis supports, but also supports related to prevention strategies that further student well-being and flourishing. For example, my own county's school system, Montgomery County, is supportive of this bill, stating that HB 800's, quote, approach aligns strongly with MCPS's ongoing efforts to integrate mental health, physical health, socio-emotional learning, and community partnerships to improve outcomes for students and families. And MCPS currently invests in a robust network of supports, including school-based and community-based mental health services, wellness partnerships, and coordinated community supports, and professional learning for staff. The emphasis in House Bill 800 on collaboration with community partners, coordinated service delivery, and preventative approaches affirms and strengthens work already underway across our district, end quote. In developing this bill, I engaged with the staff at the Accountability and Implementation Board, the AIB, where I learned that it was the current commission's intention all along for behavioral health to be inclusive of student well-being. This bill language in Pillar 4 is to standardize this interpretation across school districts and make clear that prevention work related to student well-being is inclusive of behavioral health in Pillar 4. Second, Maryland Consortium on Coordinated Community Supports, which the General Assembly created as part of the blueprint for Maryland's future in recognition of the critical role that mental health and wraparound services play in supporting student achievement, has already been making grants that support student well-being and flourishing. However, those grants have been made to intrepid grantees that have sought out these funds from the consortium without express language stating that the consortium is making these types of grants. The language in this bill again specifies that the consortium grant making that supports student well-being and flourishing is part of behavioral health and provides structural supports within the consortium to add intentionality to this work. I have worked very closely with the consortium in developing this bill language. In summary, even as many students struggle with mental health diagnoses, and you just heard a bill related to that, significantly more students struggle with the realities of student life, psychological and physiological changes, societal shortcomings. In fact, student behavioral issues often stem from combined impact of a child's social, financial, and environmental experiences, thereby adding student well-being and flourishing to the blueprint and the Maryland Consortium on Coordinated Community Supports. We will clarify that our intent is not simply to deal with negative behaviors and mental illness our children might be displaying, but also to give children the tools to manage their challenges such that they don't lead to negative behavioral outcomes and mental illness. House Bill 800 simply allows for consistency in interpretation of behavioral health in the blueprint and at the consortium so that preventative behavioral health efforts aren't being unintentionally sidelined in our schools and in the supports being offered. I thank the committee for the consideration and urge a favorable report for House Bill 800. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Chair Wilkins and members of the Ways and Means Committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Dr. Christine E. Larson. I'm currently an assistant professor of special education at Loyola University, Maryland. However, today I am speaking to you from the perspective as a former teacher and as an applied researcher of human flourishing with practical experience implementing these principles in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. As Maryland continues fulfilling the blueprint, we have a unique opportunity to strengthen our commitment to whole child education. Central to this vision is integrating student well-being and flourishing, not as an additional mandate or competing priority, but as a natural extension to our work in behavioral health. From 2020 to 2024, I led the Student Alliance for Flourishing initiative in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. During this project, we found that flourishing and well-being can be embedded within a multi-tiered system of support, starting with Tier 1, school-wide and proactive practices, and building to targeted small group and individualized supports. Findings across multiple schools showed that when students participate in extracurricular programming focused on flourishing, they experienced improved overall well-being, reduced stress, deeper relationships, decreased feelings of loneliness, all of which are foundational aspects of closing achievement gaps so that all students can succeed. By explicitly naming flourishing and well-being within the blueprint, Maryland signals a commitment to proactive care, support, and holistic child development, which will ultimately impact student success. In closing, integrating student well-being and flourishing into the blueprint is not about adding more to teachers' or administrators' plates. It's about aligning what we know works so that every Maryland student can live happy, healthy, and productive lives while they are in school and after they graduate. Thank you so much for your time today.
Chair Wilkins and members of the committee, thank you for your time today. My name is Lauren Lamb. I'm with the Maryland State Education Association, and we represent 76,000 public school educators across the state. As educators, we know from firsthand experience that we are teaching the whole child. Students' lives do not reset when they come in the classroom door. A child who comes into school tired might be irritable in class. A child who is stressed from conflict in their home life or with friends might have trouble focusing on their math test. We often see the effects of students' lives outside of school, but we often lack the resources to proactively support their well-being and flourishing beyond academics, their connection with nature, their confidence in handling conflict, and much more. All these factors affect how students show up at school and prepare for future success. We applaud the progress made by the Consortium on Coordinated Community Supports, funded by the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, in increasing students' access to behavioral health resources and offering interventions focused on their emotional well-being. This bill is a natural extension of that effort, allowing for the establishment of extracurricular activities that support the whole child by offering enriching experiences beyond the classroom. We ask the committee to issue a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, esteemed members of the General Assembly. My name is Miki Chandra, and I'm here on behalf of Free State PTA, which is the state of Maryland PTA. I'm also a member of the Montgomery County Council of PTAs. I volunteer at our local school PTA. I've spent a significant amount of time in classrooms as a substitute teacher. And I come to you today in strong support of HB 800 and Delegate Sarah Wallach's leadership. I urge you to explicitly include overall student well-being and human flourishing within behavioral health funding and programmatic support referenced in the provisions of the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. Over the past decade, our children have not only experienced academic learning loss, they have experienced erosion of focus, resilience, and social development. While the pandemic intensified this, we must also confront the steady impact of addictive digital devices that fragment attention and undermine concentration. Attention is a gateway to learning. When focus declines, literacy and numeracy declines, executive function weakens, behavioral challenges increase. If we fund only reactive behavioral health services, we address symptoms. If we fund overall well-being, we address root causes. Student progress and success should be measured across the full spectrum of human flourishing. Physical well-being, so students have the energy and health to learn. Emotional well-being, so they can regulate feelings. Social well-being, so they form healthy peer relationships. Intellectual well-being, so curiosity and critical thinking thrive. Psychological well-being, so identity and self-worth are strengthened. Environmental well-being, so schools feel safe and supportive. Occupational well-being, so students build purpose and future readiness. And spiritual well-being, so they develop meaning, values, and inner direction. These 8 dimensions are not extras. They already exist as an investment in the blueprint. So if we want to overcome a decade of learning loss, we must fund the conditions that make learning possible. This is an investment that already exists. It's a wrapper in Maryland's long-term prosperity. Thank you.
Questions on this bill? Delegate Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing the bill, and I certainly, understand the intent of it and the expansion of it. One of the things, and I don't know if I was trying to find the current list of consortium grantees that were awarded. Do you have that list? You said you were meeting with them and talking, because one of my concerns about the consortium model itself, I think, needs a revamp, because it is driven by people who apply, the local providers, what is available within that community, not within an expanded community of the state. And so that actually, can limit resources, that are available to those areas. So I didn't know if you had looked at that aspect of it and how that looks across the state, because there's very different resources.
Yes, thank you. I actually, if the Chair is comfortable, we have the executive director of the consortium here as well, who can give more details about the types of grants, but
they can just provide it, that's fine. If you could provide that, what the current one is.
We will share that.
And see how that's scattered across, because I'm looking at this under, as far as from the consortium, and then there's also the community school aspect. And so are you saying this bill then would apply to all schools then, or are you focused more on the community schools, or where the consortium can be more flexible?
So the Pillar 4 behavioral health, I believe, applies more directly to community schools. So certainly there, to be more inclusive and having, again, clarifying the intent. Like I said in my testimony, some of this work is already happening. I was speaking to a school and they hired a well-being coordinator. Other schools don't know that they can do that under the rubric of behavioral health. So this is just clarifying the intent. That this kind of work is okay. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. And being really direct and explicit with the language.
Okay, and then only under the community school umbrella, because then that also leads to where we have the minimum school funding. There's schools that literally just could not afford to do this because of the way the money follows the child, and they don't have the resources or the resources that are set aside for community schools. So that inequity also exists. So I just wanted to make sure we weren't doing any other requirements onto them,
so I'll
no
just
matter how much we
clarify.
might like it.
It's not an additional requirement. So if there's an interest to do that, they can do that. That is essentially the intent of the bill. It is not saying you must do that. It's just simply saying that behavioral health is inclusive of preventative work. So if you would like to do preventative work, that is okay. Currently, many people are interpreting the language behavioral health to mean more crisis-oriented intervention and supports, not prevention-oriented supports. So it's simply saying that's okay, not that you must do it.
Okay, and then the extracurricular piece is just if there is something that is extracurricular, that it could also be covered under the grants or under the consortium model.
The extracurricular piece is saying that the consortium is able to make grants in that way. If they receive interest, they are allowed to make those grants. Not, again, requiring anybody to solicit that money or requiring the consortium to make such a grant. It is simply saying if there's interest, the consortium may support it.
Okay. All right, thank you. I appreciate you bringing the bill.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Ebersol.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your sort of proactive look at how this bill.
Do I need to hit it?
Thank you. Thank you for this bill, and thank you for looking at a sort of proactive way of looking at students' mental health. I do have a couple of questions, and they're a slightly different area. In the early part of the bill, I think around page 3, you talk about teachers having to do training. I was a teacher. Teachers do a lot of training. So is there a training out there, and how long do you think it would take teachers to this? I have children who teach in a public school system. We won't nail them down here and tell which one. They do about 23 to 25 trainings at the beginning of each school year. And so since you've said that they would have to be trained in this, is there Is there a training? How is it administered?
My intent is not to require any further training. Can you refer me to the line that you're looking at?
Yeah, let me get there. I have one farther down, so I was scrolled forward a little bit. Top of page 3, I think. Yeah, it says, the lead-in says, complete a training on or before December 1 of each year. It's at page 2, by a method determined by each county board and the skills required to. And then there's several things that are there. But this one says recognition of student behavioral health issues, including those arising out of problems with, I want to say it right, student well-being and human flourishing.
Okay, thank you for that question. So my perspective again was that behavioral health should be inclusive of well-being. So if this, I don't see this as an additional training.
Okay.
My sense would be that in the behavioral health training that teachers are getting, well-being is very much embedded in there.
Okay, thank you. And now, I know that you said that you interfaced with the director of the consortium, if we can use that short a word for it. It's a lot more words. If we'd have known, we would have given it a shorter name. You're now recommending extracurricular activities be supported in addition to the proposals by various service groups that are in the community, which I will point out that there was an indication that there were only certain service groups. It's interesting that the service groups that exist in a community or often exist in that community because it's very necessary. So I find that a pretty good system. For example, Frederick City has a fair population of LGBTQ people, and one of the service providers that the consortium uses happens to help students that are dealing with issues around LGBTQ. Sorry, I had to give that little promotional there. But when you say an extracurricular activity supported, can you give me an example of what that might be? Because I'm real familiar with what we do as far as service providers, but I'm not sure what we're talking about there. It doesn't have to be the full spectrum, just an example.
So an after-school club, for example, there are many after-school clubs that exist. Oftentimes, in order to have an after-school club, ideally you're paying staff or a teacher to sponsor a club. You can't have a club without a sponsor.
Right.
And in order for that sponsor to provide that oversight to a club that costs some small amount of money, in our research, in Montgomery County, for example, I think it's $2,700 for a teacher to support an extracurricular activity throughout the year. So that's the sort of kind of idea. If there is an interest by a teacher or by a student body to have a club around learning well-being skills and putting that into practice, that they could solicit funds. Again, the consortium doesn't need to grant those monies.
Right.
It is completely at their discretion. And again, no one's being forced to solicit those funds.
Right.
But should there be an interest, yes, it would be wonderful if they might be able to get that.
So you're
money
sort of expanding what the consortium might be able to support in this case, and the director feels like that's a pretty good idea.
He's worked very much in partnership with me on this. And Dr. Larson here has run an after-school club in Anne Arundel and done a whole study around its impact. She has curriculum around it. There's a lot of free information on how to do this stuff. But again, we just want to open the door so if people have an interest, they could do it.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. We'll go to Delegate Pastor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Chair Ebersol, who really went right to the question I was going to ask. And that is, when in Blueprint about wellness and knowing that just as we've heard today, sometimes we don't recognize what children need, but they know they need something. So that was my question, and Chair Ebersol went right up to it. The consortium then, are you saying, does not have to be the full source for the wellness? And what are some other things, you're right, about clubs. What are some other ways, some wellness things, some of those things that your witnesses mentioned that happened during the pandemic when they were without certain activities? What are some other things that can be done that are free and that have been done prior to any of this?
If I can take the first part, and then I'll turn it to Dr.
Thank you.
Larson. So the consortium will not be undertaking this work. Right? They work with partners. So essentially, a partner can solicit money, and the consortium can grant it, and then it's the partner who would be overseeing it. So there's no additional burden from that perspective. And with that, I'll turn it over to the doctor.
Thank you for your question. There are many free activities that we could do. For instance, you could embed these types of activities. I have a whole binder here from a teacher I just visited this morning who gave me her master's thesis with many activities around wellness that could be embedded within the school day. So for instance, you could embed these into homeroom activities with teachers that would take on a certain part, whether it's social emotional learning, mindfulness, et cetera. You could also integrate flourishing within existing curricula. So for instance, I was in an English 9-10 classroom, so 9th and 10th graders, and they were reading a book called The Bean Trees, and we talked about flourishing in relation to the characters in the book. So there are innovative ways that are free, you know, and we did run a club, and that did cost money, but it is embedded within the school's funding. So if the school has funding to run a club that has interest, then we have people in schools who have the knowledge and resources, and you don't have to have outside people coming in. And that is, those are just some ways. I don't want to take up too much time, but.
Sounds a lot like some restorative practices activities.
That's right.
Is that so?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. And I'll close us out with a question. And I want to thank Delegate Wallach for all of her leadership on making sure that we're thinking about the issue of wellness in our schools. You've certainly made sure that that's a top issue and something that we consider in the legislature. I still am feeling a little bit unclear about the types of practices that would be included with the expansion in this bill in terms of adding the well-being and flourishing. Can you give some more? So I heard after-school programs. Can we hear some more examples of the types of things that would be included that would be considered under the wellness and flourishing, and also any ties that are available in terms of links to student outcomes when it comes to this type of effort in our schools?
Thank you. So if there was a club around well-being, there's some research that we already have that the sponsor could leverage in terms of curriculum and exercises for after school. You know, we were talking about reading books around what well-being is, so educating children and really doing sort of a book club in that. That could be an activity. There could be breathing practices, yoga practices that are done. There could be journaling that happens where you learn how to reflect on your day, and contemplation is really, really key around well-being, so creating spaces to learn how to reflect. Oftentimes, children, frankly, right now live in a very, very noisy world. So creating an opportunity for them to reflect on who they are and really grounding it on the 8 pillars of well-being. So having nature-based practices. I know many schools are doing community gardens. A well-being club could partner with the community garden and be outdoors and come up with ways to spend time in nature. These are, again, activities that I'm sharing with you, but there's a plethora of content and exercises that children can engage with and put into practice.
That's super helpful. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 800. And you also have House Bill 546. For House Bill 546, I have Tara Segree, Lauren Lamb, and Khalil Kai Kendall. And you can start when you're ready.
All right. Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins and the esteemed members of Ways and Means. For the record, I'm Delegate Sarah Wallach, here to present House Bill 546, the Educator Wellbeing Act. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of this bill. Teachers today are managing responsibilities that would have been unimaginable a generation ago. They navigate endless administrative requirements, which include weekly planning meetings, grading, frequent communication with parents, lesson planning, learning new technologies that emerge frequently. At the same time, they're working to establish meaningful connections with students in an age where social media commands more attention than any lesson plan ever could. We're asking teachers to show up emotionally present and engaged every single day, but we're not consistently giving them the resources to sustain that level of presence. Large class sizes, oftentimes staffing shortages, burnout are just some of the factors that have taken a toll on teachers in our state in recent years. In 2025, 62% of teachers reported frequent job-related stress, compared to 33% of similar working-age adults. This same State of American Teacher survey found that 16% of teachers report an intention to leave by the end of the school year. Per MSDE's Educator Workforce Data Update published February of last year, 9.4% of Maryland's public school teachers did not return to teach anywhere in the state the following year. So how do we retain teachers? That is the goal of this bill. How do we retain teachers? One way we retain teachers is providing them the tools to manage their own well-being, which is essential for both staff and student success. This bill asks MSDE to make available an accredited professional development course that equips educators to manage their own well-being. I will state clearly, this is not a requirement for any teacher to take this course. It is simply a requirement that this course be available to them should they have an interest to take advantage of it. By providing educators the practical well-being strategies, it's not just about making their jobs easier, it's about creating sustainable careers in education, which is one of our state's biggest strengths. When teachers have the capacity to manage stress effectively and maintain their own mental health, they show up differently in the classroom for our children. They're more patient, they're more creative, they're more capable of handling challenges that arise. Students pick up on that stability, and it shapes the entire learning environment for the better. And best of all, teachers stay in the classroom. Speaking as a former educator myself, I know teaching is incredibly rewarding, but there is always a point when an educator needs support, not just by being a better teacher, but being able to take care of oneself so they can sustain this passion-centered work. This bill addresses exactly that need. Teachers already attend multiple professional developments each year, so why not ensure that one of the courses that is available to them provides practical tools that they need to manage their own mental wellness. This bill also requires that the course that is made available provides credit hours towards licensure maintenance that teachers have to do. So it's not just a throwaway course, it actually provides its time well used towards that. This bill is cross-filed with Senator Feldman, and I thank the committee for your consideration for House Bill 546, and I urge a favorable report of the bill. Thank you.
Chair Wilkins, members of the committee, thank you for your time today. My name is Lauren Lamb, representing the Maryland State Education Association, which represents 76,000 public school educators across the state. Every 5 years, educators must renew their licenses, and one of the requirements to do so is to accrue 90 professional development points. Those can be accrued by completing continuing education courses and relevant trainings. Teachers have some flexibility in deciding which professional development courses they take, and trainings are offered covering a broad range of professional practices, but one area that is rarely addressed is teacher well-being as they navigate the demands of their roles. Teachers report high rates of demoralization, burnout, and the emotional effects of being asked to do more with less. We must be clear, training on well-being is no replacement for sustainable caseloads, adequate pay, and safe working conditions, and we must continue advancing those aims to make teaching an attractive long-term career prospect. But what we can accomplish by offering this training on holistic well-being is offering actionable strategies to teachers that highlight the importance of their own health and fulfillment. When educators thrive, they are that much more empowered to lift up students. The strategies in this training will have positive secondary effects for the students our teachers serve and for teacher retention. We appreciate this effort to bring attention to teacher well-being and flourishing, and we urge the committee to issue a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, delegates. My name is Tara Segree. As a teacher for over 20 years, I have witnessed firsthand the decline in the mental health of my colleagues and the rise of burnout due to the demands of the teaching profession. My first teaching job was back in 1997 in Pinellas County Public Schools in Florida, where teaching seemed to be a little less stressful. Times change, though, and now we have the scrutiny of test scores, multiple student learning objectives, weekly planning meetings, professional developments, parent conferences, communicating and logging parent emails and phone calls, progress reports, report cards, grading, data tracking, lesson plans, observations, classroom visits, IEP meetings, 504 meetings, committee meetings, modifications of lessons to reach all students, department meetings, learning new technology every year using the new technology and platforms that seem to change every year for documenting lessons and assignments, and oh yeah, the actual art of teaching. Making sure that students want to engage. And your only competitor is TikTok. And to do all that, don't forget you must build rapport with students because that is the only way they're going to want to engage with you. And we wonder why our teachers are stressed out. I was blessed to be at one of the greatest high schools in our state here in Anne Arundel County for the last 7 years. The high school was very open to me conducting professional developments around wellness and flourishing for our school staff. I was able to run multiple meditation sessions for our teachers and staff yearly starting in 2020, as well as run multiple professional developments on bringing mindfulness into their life and their classrooms. My professional developments and meditation workshops were very well received and attended by administration, teachers, and support staff. I saw there was a great need to assist educators with their mental wellness. We need to make sure teachers can mentally handle the pressures of our profession. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Khalil Kirkendall. I'm a Montgomery County Public School educator, a professor of stress management at George Washington University, and the executive director of the Center of Educational Improvement. I am here in strong support of House Bill 546. Before I begin, I'm going to take one slow breath because something that simple is part of why I'm still teaching today. Maryland is facing a teacher retention crisis. Educators are not leaving because they don't care. They're leaving because they are exhausted. Chronic stress, emotional overload, and the cumulative weight of responsibility that has just been described are pushing talented teachers out of the classrooms that they once loved. I know this because I lived it. Early in my career, I experienced burnout. I loved my students, I was extremely committed, but I was emotionally exhausted and physically depleted. I quietly wondered if I could sustain this profession. What changed my trajectory was learning the science of stress and evidence-based well-being training in stress physiology and mindfulness. I learned how chronic stress impacts the brain and how intentional practices, even something as small as an inhale and exhale can regulate the nervous system and restore clarity. Understanding how chronic stress affects the body and the brain and learning how to regulate it made my work sustainable. That training kept me in the classroom. Educators are not leaving because they lack passion. They're leaving because they lack sustainable support. Burnout is not a personal weakness. It's a systems problem. House Bill 546 recognizes educator well-being as professional competency by offering accredited training that counts towards licensure. This bill positions well-being as an optional self-care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we have a few questions. Delegate Patterson.
Great, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Delegate, for bringing this bill to our attention. I was reminded of a school board meeting I heard several months ago from some seasoned teachers who were burnt out, and they shared their frustration, but most of all, their love for the profession and love for students. And as I was watching it, I thought to myself, well, what role do principals play and what roles do members of the Maryland Association of Boards of Education play? And in looking at your legislation, it's very good, but I just maybe from Ms. Lamb can offer, one of you, just one, any kind of input or support from principals who are in my county, they're told they're the CEOs of the school, as well as boards of education, because we are losing teachers and we're here to support. We passed the legislation, but we're still seeing a decline, and more importantly, as your bill suggests, the burnout that exists from teachers who are given more and more requirements to fulfill.
So specifically, can you restate the question?
I think Ms. Lamb understood.
Oh, okay.
It's a question of what role. I know that the letters that you have are from schools, et cetera, and I chose her because of her relationship with MSEA. If there is none, it's fine. But I know that the teachers will have the techniques, and that's what your bill is suggesting. But what about the people who are there, who are overseers of these schools, the principals, and more importantly, the boards of education and the superintendents? Do you see them having a role in a factor in this overall well-being and retention of teachers, good teachers that we need in our schools?
Absolutely.
And that's not a trick question.
Thank you, Delegate Patterson, for highlighting that. County boards and school administrators have huge impact on the working conditions in a school and therefore on teacher retention and retention of all educators. And, we will continue advocating for great working conditions, for fair policies that support educators in their work. And we see this as just one step toward that end, but that definitely does not discount the importance of those roles.
Thank you.
Delegate Eversole.
Oh, thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you. I would love to give teachers credit for continuing to be teachers by making themselves healthy. What an important thing for us to do. The program that exists, the fiscal note writer says if there's a course that the State Department can identify, this can be done really inexpensively, probably free, and that's great too. There are, later in the bill, 8, you could almost count 9 requirements that be in the course. Are there courses out there that do this, that will meet, since it will be in law, they'll have to do all that? Or will we run into trouble with them not really meeting that requirement, the State Department having to patch holes or find a new course? Do we have any indication from them on this?
Yes, thanks so much. They actually have a course that MSDE, I should say, I've been working with them, and they have a course that they have made available, and it is free, that they said aligns with what the bill has in its requirements.
And so mostly this is going to say they have to offer it now and offer points, the points that we talk about
That's
here.
correct. And the concern that, should this course go away, there's from, if you recall from the previous hearing, there's so much content, there's increasing interest, a lot more research that's available and free. So I don't see that
You don't
being an
anticipate
issue
that.
in the future.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, that ends this bill hearing. Thank you for your time. And colleagues, as we move into the next bill, which is my bill, I do want to briefly recognize my shadow for the day with the Emerge Maryland program, Adrienne Mathis, who is standing there. If you can help me to welcome her to the Maryland General Assembly and the committee. Wonderful. And the next bill is actually my bill. So I'm going to ask Delegate Eversole to please take on the role of the hearing, and I will move up there. Thank you. If there's anyone here on House Bill 575, please come on up.
It's my mentee too. I'd also like to announce that Adrienne Mathis is also one of my mentees from Southern Maryland.
I did recognize her just quietly up here at the front. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Please, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon, colleagues. If I could have quiet in the room for my bill hearing. Good afternoon, colleagues. I am Delegate Janelle Wilkins. For the record, I am pleased to present House Bill 575, Public School Student Attendance and Excused Absences for Civic Engagement. Colleagues, I know that this committee, we appreciate every single person that comes to testify. But there is a very special place in our hearts for students when they take the time out of their studies and they journey to Annapolis and come here to testify for legislation and participate. And I think that our committee probably receives the most amount of students in our committee just because of the subject matter that we cover. In my 10 legislative sessions in the Ways and Means Committee, we've had a lot of impressive students testify before us. And I have thought to myself, how can we make sure that we facilitate their participation? And I was actually surprised to find out that on our books, in our statutes, we actually don't have any particular legislation or laws that ensures that students can have excused absences, that they can come to Annapolis and engage with us. And that's what this bill is about. House Bill 575 requires MSDE and our county boards of education to adopt an attendance policy for students to ensure their civic engagement during session and ensure that it is excused for a minimum of 15 hours or 2 days of school during the legislative session. This includes testifying virtually or in person, meeting with legislators, and engaging on legislation and policy issues and other civic engagement activities. Under the bill, a county board would adopt policies and procedures for these types of absences. And I want to note that there is some valid feedback on the bill that I am open to working with the subcommittee on. It deals with the fact that the legislation specifically says that these absences would not count towards chronic absenteeism. So we were trying to make sure that we address that, but there are other ways to get at it because it's been noted that creates a new precedent around how we count chronic absenteeism. So that's something that we can easily work on and fix. So I look forward to working with the subcommittee, and I'm proud to be joined by the subjects of this legislation who have really taken the time out, who have provided input on this legislation. I've made changes to the bill based on their feedback, and so I'm very proud to be joined by students who would benefit from this legislation. I urge a favorable report on House Bill 575. Thank you
very much. And this is a stellar group of students. They're everywhere, okay? I've run into them on several occasions already, and they always have something good. We'll start off with Gavin Falcon, please.
Good afternoon, distinguished members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Gavin Falcone. I'm a junior at Long Reach High School, and I'm testifying on behalf of the Howard County Association of Student Councils, serving as their president in support of HB 575. At its core, HB 575 is about one thing: whether student voice truly matters in Maryland. Right now, as you could assume, I'm missing school to be here. I had to make it my absence a mental health day to be here as well. That should not be the pathway to civic participation. Adults who care about an issue can request time off from work, use their personal leave, or adjust their schedules to testify. Students don't have that flexibility. When hearings are happening, whether that's at the Board of Education, County Council, Annapolis, or even at our nation's capital, students are forced to choose between attendance and advocacy. That choice discourages participation. In Howard County, we do have discretionary absences. However, those days are limited and intended for a wide range of personal circumstances. They are not specifically designated and supported for a civic structure. The Howard County student member of the Board of Education will elaborate on that a little further. With that being said, across my county, students tell me they want to engage, they want to speak up, but they don't have the ability. They want to come and talk about these policies, especially in this committee and EEE, that affect them and directly impact the classroom, their safety, as many of Delegate Ebersol's bills are, curriculum, and our futures. But many decide not to come because they fear attendance and consequences of academic penalties. HB 575 provides that relief, giving up to 2 days or 15 hours for excused civic engagement. That's not excessive. It is reasonable. It recognizes students are stakeholders in the policies that govern their education. If we want young people to be informed, engaged voters, we can't not expect them to wait until they're 18 to begin participating. Civic habits are formed early. When students feel heard, they stay engaged. Student voices are not dependent on whether a student is, or student voice should not be dependent on whether a student is willing to risk an unexcused absence. It shouldn't be dependent if we feel comfortable of misclassifying our reason for being here, as I had to do today. If we value civic education, we must protect civic participation. For those reasons, HCAS respectfully urge a favorable report on HB 575. Thank you so much and your commitment to Howard County students and students across the nation, or state, sorry.
Great job. You got it in by the buzzer there. Nicely done.
Perfect.
Next, we have Aaron Alstar.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Wilkins, Vice Chairwoman Feldmark, and esteemed members of the House Ways and Means Committee. My name is Aaron Allister, a senior at River Hill High School, and this year I serve as Howard County's student member on the Board of Education. As a student member of the board, I'm offered unique flexibility to miss school, to attend conventions, meetings at the board, and come meet students, as well as come here to Annapolis to share feedback on legislation that I think is important to our students. It's due to these flexibilities that I was able to come here to Annapolis today without having to misclassify my absence. But I'm only one among 57,000 students who potentially want to share their voice and make a change at the state level. I want to talk a bit about the discretional days that we already have. In Howard County, we have 3 discretional days and 2 base mental health days that can be extended further out if needed. But those 3 discretionary days, especially for seniors, are shared between college visits, college interviews, sickness, work, athletic competitions, travel, family business. Those 3 days are already stretched thin, and a lot of students already request additional discretion days just to get by throughout the year. This past week, over 70 students signed up to testify at the Board of Education. These students testified from home, in the boardroom, from work, and we even had a student testify from the bus. If students are willing to give up their time to fight for the causes that matter to them, then we need to offer them the support that they need to do so. Currently, if an absence is not excused, students have no opportunity to make up work. That means if they miss the math test, they get the 0 for that quarter. If they miss homework or other assignments due that day, they also get the 0 if it's not excused. Under this legislation, those 2 days would allow students to make up that work within 1 day if it's an assignment, or to retake the test the next time they're in school. HB 575 provides those 2 days, or just 15 hours, that allows students to have the flexibility to come to Annapolis and share their voice. Thank you, and I urge the committee for a favorable reading.
Nice, another buzzer beater. Well done. Yeah. Next, we have Sanvi Venambaka.
Thank you for pronouncing my name right.
I took a risk. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and distinguished members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Sanvi Venambaka, and I'm a student at Hammond High School. I serve as the sophomore vice president. I'm also on the executive board for Howard County Association of Student Councils, and I'm a part of Maryland Association of Student Councils. I am testifying for the support of HB 575. Before we begin, I want to share a small little story. I recently got my credit card. So with my credit card, I knew all about the educational aspect of it with the banks and the credit score, but when you went to the store to put my credit card inside of the slot, it showed an error message because I did it wrong. And the cashier looked at me funny, and I had to take it out and put it back in. But from this embarrassing experience, I realized that education is important, but so is hands-on experience. And so hands-on experience comes from participating in these civic engagement activities, such as testifying or shadowing or meeting with local legislators. So with the passing of Bill HB 0575, more students would have the opportunity to gain this valuable experience and skills such as public speaking and policy analysis and civic literacy. Testifying allows students to take part in civic engagement activities and expand their voices and ideas to the state level. By allowing 2 days of excused absences, HB 575 would enable more students to participate in these meaningful experiences. Additionally, HB 575 would close the equity gap between schools. Some schools across the county are more lenient with their excused absences, while others are not. So this bill would just ensure that more students have equal opportunities to participate in civic engagement activities. Not only would this bill have short-term benefits, but it will also create broader civic impacts among today's youth. With greater opportunities to get involved in civic activities, there'll be increased youth engagement in the government, which is what we want. For these reasons, I respectfully urge you to issue a favorable report on Bill HB 575. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Safe at the plate. Nice. So thank you all. We do this often, but one of the points I like to make about young adult advocates is that you have to work harder than many other advocates do, because there are so many of us, present company excluded, who will pat you on the head and say, aren't you just the nicest kids? And so we do an applause, and it is a pat on the head, and we're going to do it for you now. Did I miss one? Am I early? Oh, had the whole speech queued up, too. William Andreone, go. And then we'll finish that little diatribe, okay?
Good afternoon, members of this committee. My name is Will Andreoni. I am a senior at Savannah Park High School, and I serve as the Secretary of Legislation for the Chesapeake Regional Association of Student Councilors, or AACPS's student government, and I'm here today in strong support of House Bill 575. But I'm only able to come before you today because I have a partial schedule. Unexcused absences are extremely difficult for students. It means zeros on assignments. It means calls homes and stresses on whether teachers would allow them to make up work. Again, I'm only able to come before you all today because I'm a senior, with my credits fulfilled, meaning I get a partial schedule and can leave school at 11:30. However, a lot of my peers, who are just as passionate as I am, are forced to choose between their civic duty and to zero on an assignment or an unexcused absence. A lot of their voices are missing from this room because current policies treat civic engagement the same as playing hooky, rather than real-world civic education and experience. House Bill 575 mandates that at least 2 school days or 15 hours of civic activities, such as testifying here today and advocating for legislation, are excused and lawful absences. These experiences from these activities take what we learn in the classroom, whether it's your AP Gov class or your history class or other social studies classes, and bring them here and allow us to apply them into real-world settings. The work that goes on here at the General Assembly does not just impact adults, it impacts the students too and the youth. By passing House Bill 575, it shows that we value student and youth voice, that we understand that civic engagement is putting what we learn in the classroom and applying it to real-world application and experience. A favorable report for House Bill 575 shows Maryland's youth that we want to hear from them and that they deserve to be heard. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you now. And I'll just finish by saying we are going to applaud for you, but not to pat you on the head, to say thank you for the extra hard work you do to establish your credibility. Very good. And thank you. Now, we can take questions for this panel if there are any. Well, you did it. Nicely done. Everybody's intimidated by your large yes here. There you go. We have a couple of, then if we're done with this panel, we have a couple of more favorable testifying. Oh, look, they're flashing down there. You guys came in a little late there, but we're gonna go ahead. Delegate Roberson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing the bill as well. I definitely appreciate it. I just want to be, in your opening comments, you stated for individuals coming to testify before us in the legislature, but it won't only apply to us, but it can also include local government. I know they mentioned school board, testimony, and so I just want to make sure I didn't miss that where they're excluded from those other opportunities.
That is a great question. This bill does focus on the General Assembly, but I am open, if this committee wants to expand it, I am open to that conversation, how we expand it to make sure that our students can testify and participate more broadly. So that's a great question.
Yeah, thank you, because I know you mentioned the legislature, but I know some of them mentioned the school board testimonies as well, and I know they've advocated there as well. And then I also appreciate the reference to mental health days and how those are employed as well. I know those are often opportunities that you all can use, but that's not what it's here for, to come before us. It's definitely not. So we don't want you to abuse the system as well, because our system is flawed. So we appreciate you all being here. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the bill.
That's a great point, Delegate. And on the mental health days, I just want to lift up the point that some jurisdictions do group a mental health day, as was mentioned, with civic engagement. But if someone wants to come up here, if a student wants to come to testify, that's them losing the opportunity for their mental health day or other days that the school system allows. So we want to make sure that specifically for this type of civic engagement that they're able to utilize that without losing other opportunities and days that are needed.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Madam Chair, my question, I kind of figured out a little bit of the answer because I came in a little late, and I was going to ask initially about whether this would apply virtually to allow for a student to do that. I see in the bill that it does provide for the virtual option. So I guess my question more specifically then would be, in those circumstances where it's virtually, would it be, like, how are we tallying, or what would be the expectation for a school to tally that 2 hours or 3 hours for a student to testify virtually? Because as you know, it's a lot of hurry up and wait in this arena.
It is, and that's a very good question. So the bill does require the counties to create that process, because I know that counties might have different contexts and that would make sense for them. However, when it comes to testifying virtually, we know that in this committee, it could be 30 minutes of your time, or it could end up being 4 or 5 hours, as the people who are waiting to testify can attest. So the way that would work is that we allow in the bill 15 hours to 2 days as a minimum. And so as the counties are creating those policies, they would have a set maximum amount of time under this bill for the student. And when a student is getting their excuse note, I think that the counties would probably have as part of their process, how many hours of school were missed, and that would be counted.
Yeah, just, with class changes, that would be one of the major concerns, this teacher versus that teacher, and making sure there's communication. Thank you for the bill. I think it's really exciting opportunity for young people, and thank you, young people, for coming today.
Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you, Delegate. I see a question from Delegate Pasteur.
And thank you, Chair Eversole.
Don't overdo it.
You just attested to this, Chair Wilkins, on line 17, the at least 15 hours if they're able to do other areas than here. Would that number of hours be flexible? I'm confused by at least 15. They have to explain.
Sure. Great question, and thanks for the opportunity to explain. So since the counties would be fleshing out the details of these policies, what we're setting as a floor is at minimum 15 hours. And the reason why I went with 15 hours or 2 days is that, especially if a student is coming in person, this is probably pretty much their full day. They're probably not able to return to school by the time they get back to their schools. It kind of does take a full day to come to Annapolis in a lot of occasions. So it has 15 hours as a minimum so that we can really provide an opportunity, or 2 days, which that could be 2 times coming up to Annapolis during a session. But it sounds like there's interest in perhaps expanding this for other locations, other bodies, and I think that that's something that we can work on with our students and with the subcommittee and full committee as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Are there any other questions? All right, seeing none, we'll go to a couple of more favorable testimonies. I have Lauren Lamb, Dr. Kashina Cross, and Samir Ahmed. No, I'm sorry, that's wrong. I only have one more live testimony. That's Lauren Lamb. The other two are virtual. Get to sit there all by yourself.
I don't usually get to sit in the middle chair. Chair Wilkins, members of the committee, thank you for your time. I'm Lauren Lamb with the Maryland State Education Association and our 76,000 educator members. As educators, we work hard to create engaging lessons that prepare students for success, but the best lesson in the world is no replacement for real hands-on experience. And when it comes to civic engagement, learning by doing is essential. Research suggests that students who participate in experiential learning around advocacy and the legislative process are more likely to be civically engaged throughout their lives. That is really what every educator hopes for, to prepare young people to be involved, motivated members of their community. To the students here today, I am reasonably confident that your social studies teachers are very proud of you. Students are the future of our democracy, and their voices must be heard. We appreciate that this bill would accommodate such experiences and ensure that students won't face academic consequences for participating. I urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions? Okay, seeing none, we have one virtual witness, and that is Dr. Kashina A. Cross. We get her on screen. Not yet.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. It tells me that the host has my video stopped, so they have to start it.
Stand by, we'll have you in a second. I see you now, but if you turn your camera on, I think that would do it.
I cannot start my video because the host has disabled it.
Stand by. I'm comfortable letting her start and see if you can get her in while we go. Go ahead and start your testimony, and we'll see if we can get a picture of you after a minute or so. Oh, winner. There you go. Ta-da.
There we are. Thank you
See,
so much.
I put a little pressure on them, and they came right through there. So there we go.
Fantastic. I want to say thank you so much to the chair and to the members of this committee. Good afternoon. My name is the Honorable Dr. Kashina A. Cross, and I stand in strong support of House Bill 575. I offer this testimony not only as a mother of local Prince George's County students who have had the unique opportunity of witnessing on various levels, but also as a daughter of a third grade educator who taught me early that it's not just the education, but it's about the instruction and the preparation for responsible citizenship. House Bill 575 strengthens that connection between educators and democracy. National civic data shows that fewer than 1 in 4 young adults who actually do participate in civic activities before the age of 25 will possibly not become avid voters. Yet students who engage in civic learning experiences during their school years are more than 40% likely to vote and significantly likely to serve their communities. And we all know that service is king. The issue is personal for me because I do have those 2 young children who have now had their penalties as well, but the civic journey has expanded beyond just Maryland. They've actually testified on the United Nations floor in New York City. As a municipality leader, it is important that we do have direct impact with our civic understanding, that it's best for our students to understand not only budgets, policies, decisions, but good governance. So for this reason and many more, I do highly encourage that we improve long-term economic outcomes by ensuring that citizens understand how government works, how misinformation declines collaboration, but also build that civic advocacy which must be continued between the attendance and compliance and participation in democracy. House Bill 575 corrects the conflict which is requiring students to actually take leave and treat civic engagement and the General Assembly session conditions as lawful and wholesome. I thank you for a favorable report.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee for this witness? Okay, seeing none and having no more witnesses, this will conclude the hearing on House Bill 575. Thank you very much, all of you. The next bill is House Bill 530. The sponsor is Delegate Wu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we bring our panelists?
Yes, sir. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and member of the Ways and Means Committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Chao. Here I'm presenting Bill 530 and respectfully request your favorable report. House Bill 530 established a task force that has the focus of proactively protecting Maryland students from potential harm on special education school buses. Especially, it requires MSD to create a task force with the goal of proactively reviewing video footage from special education buses to help prevent abuse and other harmful behavior toward our students. The guidelines should also consider the use of AI technology for automation and alerts. The bill was brought up to me through my constituents who have had unfortunate experience with their children riding on special education buses. One case brought up occurred in 2025, where a school bus aide was charged with assault and fourth-degree sexual offense after reviewing footage showing the aide assaulting two nonverbal students with disability. Another case occurred when a Montgomery County bus driver of nearly 19 years old was charged with second-degree rape, sexual abuse of minor, and a third-degree sexual offense after footage revealed the abuse of a 12-year-old student with disabilities. Students that ride on special education school buses are among Maryland's vulnerable children who especially and nonverbal and sometimes minimal verbal. These students are precisely targeted as it is challenging for them to describe an unsafe encounter, articulate fear or distress, or report inappropriate physical contact. The current procedure relies entirely on parents' concern or talking to school or reports after the incident had occurred, sometimes maybe repeatedly after months. As seen in the two cases brought up, reviewing audio and video recording on special education buses after the incident will cause harm to Maryland students. This is why this bill has a focus on proactive review. Drivers, attendants, and all adults on the school bus will know that footage will be systematically reviewed rather than only accessed after an incident is reported, which will result in the likelihood of misconduct decreasing. There will be also several guardrails and securities to guarantee the safety and the privacy of students surrounding the use of tools for proactive review. Ultimately, proactive review is not simply about catching misconduct. It is creating a culture of safety amongst our student staff and students. When staff understand that their interaction will be routinely assessed, they are more likely to adhere to best practices, seek support when faced with behavior challenges, and respond appropriately to student needs. If there's a need of the task force to regulatory changes or other support, I would continue to support this effort of the task force review. I'm confident that the bill will allow us to promote the safety of our students with disability, prevent the future incidents, and foster an environment where they can learn without the threat of abuse or harassment. Finally, and there are no fiscal notes on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We have several witnesses in favor. First, I have Yi Han.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Yi Han, and I'm a parent of two children with autism who rely on special education transportation in Howard County. I'm here to strongly support HB 530, which would established a task force to study the proactive review of audio and video recording on special education buses. Children with disabilities are among the most vulnerable students, and recent incidents in Maryland highlight the serious risks they face. In Howard County, an 80-year-old bus aide was charged with assault and fourth-degree sexual offense after video footage showed him hitting a 13-year-old nonverbal student and improperly touching the other. And in Baltimore County, a bus aide allegedly put her hand around a 7th grade student's with autism's neck and slammed him to the ground. In Montgomery County, a former bus driver was found guilty of sexually abusing 4 special needs students over several months while transporting them on the bus. While many buses have surveillance video cameras, footage usually reviewed only after complaints, not proactively. Drivers must focus on operating the vehicle, and aides often lack sufficient supervision, leaving the vulnerable students without consistent protection. HB 530 would allow Maryland to study how technology and procedures can proactively review video recordings to detect unsafe behavior before more students are harmed. This is about prevention, not punishment, ensuring that students cannot report abuse are protected. As a parent, I know how crucial it is to keep children safe during transportation. Proactive monitoring is a practical, necessary step to prevent abuse and protect Maryland's most vulnerable students. I urge the committee to firmly support HB 5030. Thank you for your attention and commitment to student safety.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Ellen Flynn.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I am Ellen Flynn, a resident of Howard County, a parent and an attorney who focuses on representation of children and adults who have been the subject of sexual assault. I have been trained on trauma-informed investigation, the same training that the FBI goes through in order to learn how to talk to survivors of sexual assault. And I'm well aware of the difficulties that children have in sharing facts of sexual abuse with their parents, their teachers, and others. I am happy to join Delegate Wu here to testify in favor of House Bill 530. As parents, we send our children to school secure in the understanding that someone is looking out for them. To learn that your child was sexually abused by someone he or she trusted and that you trusted, and that the perpetrator's actions may have been known or covered up or easily observed by the school district, there just are no words that could describe that type of betrayal. Sexual abuse is devastating for all children, and any child may fall victim to a predator, particularly in a school setting where he or she believes he or she is safe. According to the Vera Institute of Justice, statistics show that special needs children are 3 times more likely to be victims of sexual abuse in schools than other children, both from adult authority figures such as teachers and from other students. All children have a difficult time disclosing embarrassing trauma. Children with special needs may have a difficult time finding the words or knowing how to describe what has happened or testify about the details of abuse in court. They could lack the vocabulary, the physical ability, they could be nonverbal, or just not have the ability to find someone who can communicate with them. I want to give you an example, if I may, of another school district in California, the same exact scenario. The bus was monitored by video. No one looked at it. They didn't have the capacity to monitor it. And once they finally did look at it, they found that abuse had happened on the bus.
If you could sum up in a sentence, please.
Yes, I mean, that school system paid $10 million to settle that case. My point being, this is worth your investment of time and money.
Thank you. Next, we have Jamie Shoplin.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Jamie Shoplin, and I serve as chair of the Frederick County Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee, and I'm also a mom of a non-speaking first grader in Frederick County Public Schools. I'm here in strong support of HB 530. My daughter Marin's diagnosis is ataxic cerebral palsy, and it affects her communication control center in her brain. When she rode the bus to her inclusive pre-K class, she couldn't tell me what happened on her bus ride each day. So like many families of children with disabilities, I have to trust systems I can't see, because of her communication education challenges, we declined transportation support in her IEP. With the sexual and predatory incidents on the bus in Howard County, as well as in school buildings in Frederick County recently, as late last year, that trust is extremely fragile, and for some families, it's completely broken. Many of us in Frederick County have followed the serious incident that occurred on a special education bus in Howard County. For families like mine, that was not just a news headline. It was a reminder that when a child cannot speak, silence can be mistaken for safety and a false sense of security. HB 530 takes a thoughtful step forward with no fiscal note in rebuilding trust. It does not mandate immediate changes. It helps us instead take a look at how we can leverage audio, video, emerging AI technology to help proactively identify safety concerns on special education buses while examining the privacy, the cost, and the best practices to help look at footage that may help those who cannot speak and advocate for themselves. Right now, recordings usually get reviewed in retrospect after a complaint, but many kids on special education buses cannot report harm that trigger those complaints. So transportation is one of the things that I hear from county families all around the county. This bill brings together the necessary folks to take a look at this issue. I respectfully urge favorable report on this. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, I have Elizabeth Benavides.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Beth Benavides, and I'm here on behalf of the Education Advocacy Coalition for Students with Disabilities. The EAC is a coalition of nearly 50 organizations and individuals, attorneys, and advocates committed to advancing education policies to protect and support Maryland students with disabilities. The EAC supports House Bill 530 because it acknowledges the vulnerability of many students with disabilities on unsupervised buses. The EAC supports consideration of this measure to investigate ways to create a safer environment for children with disabilities. The abuse of children with disabilities on school buses is an issue we continue to see in Maryland and across the country. In the Howard County case mentioned earlier, the law enforcement had initially been aware of only one potential victim when they reviewed the footage, and there they found a second victim who was later identified under review. Proactively reviewing audio and video recordings rather than relying entirely on parent concerns and reports would serve as a meaningful deterrent to abuse. For children with disabilities, particularly those who are nonverbal or minimally verbal, the need for deterrence cannot be overstated. Proactive review also enables early intervention, reducing the duration and severity of harm. Implementing a system that facilitates timely identification of concerning behavior would allow schools to intervene promptly, preventing additional trauma and protecting students who depend entirely on adults for safety and well-being. Ultimately, proactive review is not simply about catching misconduct. It is about creating a culture of safety. When staff understand that their interactions may be routinely assessed, they are more likely to adhere to best practices, to seek support when faced with behavioral challenges, and to respond appropriately to student needs. For these reasons, the Education Advocacy Coalition supports House Bill 530, while acknowledging that the task force must consider the significant concerns for student confidentiality and the guardrails and security that will be necessary around the use of these AI tools. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for this panel? I see Delegate Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Delegate, I'm looking at the fiscal note. It looks like there is a small fiscal note, or depends on your perspective, a small $343,000 for a contract with a vendor with expertise in AI applications and to hire 2 contractual employees to staff the task force. Question would be, I think it might make sense for you to maybe staff the task force with your team. Would you be open to that, number one? And then, isn't that so, Mr. Chair, which is, it's been 3 years, we've been talking about AI with MSDE. And I think as there comes a point where MSDE is going to have to invest in somebody who understands AI, who can advise them on AI, because we've been pushing this for a while now. I don't know if this is where it applies, but I just want to put that on the record because it's been 3 years. And we've been getting the same, we don't have the expertise from MSDE for a while now. So isn't that so, Delegate?
You had a question embedded also at the beginning, though, right?
Sure. Thank you, Delegate. That's a great question. I think the task force is really trying to get expertise from the community, from experts, see what's the best possible tool we can use, right? I actually don't know any tool right now. So I think we should be able to find some tools which can do the work, do the video review, audio review. Eventually, this work is tremendous, right? There's no way human can review that, right? So we need an AI tool to help that. And then we can put the humans in the loop. Eventually say, oh, the whole state, we may do a big grant, right? Purchase one tool, can share with all the school district. In that way, the scale of the load will make it much cheaper for each school to do it individually.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the panel? Okay, seeing none, thank you all very much. We have one more favorable witness out there, Ashton Felton. Please begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashton Felton, and I am the chairperson of the Calvert Special Education Citizen Advisory Committee. And I am here today to speak in support of HB 530. Children with disabilities are more likely to experience bullying, harassment, and physical or sexual abuse. Many may lack the voice, cognition, recognition, or ability to understand and report it when it happens. This vulnerability is often exploited by individuals our children should be able to trust. I don't believe anyone here can argue that the safety of Maryland students is anything less than essential, especially for our most vulnerable populations. A child's time on a bus route is the first and last part of their day. While we often associate bus safety with seat belts and flashing stop arms, true safety extends far beyond that. Our state has witnessed heartbreaking instances of children being abused, assaulted, or neglected in places where they should feel secure. And even though such incidents should never happen at all, they are often not discovered or reported until long after extreme harm has occurred. AI has taken the spotlight recently, and like many, I have approached AI technology with caution, but I also recognize the significant ways it is improving lives. Through this bill, we can begin to explore how emerging technologies may help us identify solutions and strengthen preventative measures for our children. Our focus must be that accountability, reporting, investigations, and systemic improvements occur at the state level for all children, not just in counties with the resources to act, and not only after harm has occurred, which is often far too late in any case. Proactivity is a best practice, and I believe that it is worth investing time and energy to understand how we can improve safety and security for those who need it most. I urge you to favorably support this bill and empower this task force to ensure that every student in Maryland is safe.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for this witness? Okay, seeing none, that ends our witness list, and that will conclude the hearing on House Bill 530. Thank you all very much.
All right, next bill is House Bill 659, Delegate Gazzoni.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins and members of the Ways and Means Committee. I'm Delegate Pam Gazzoni, representing Howard County's District 13, and I'm here in support of House Bill 659, which would require one of the existing 13 members of the State Board of Education to be an early childhood development professional. I come with hands-on experience in the challenges that early child care professionals face. As an employee at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, I sent all 3 of my children to its on-site child development center. During those years, I served on the parent-led board, which oversaw the executive director, approved annual budgets, and made policy decisions. Subsequently, and many years later, during my final years at Goddard, part of my job included oversight of the Child Development Center, which had transitioned from a parent-organized center to one that was managed by Goddard leadership. Its executive director reported to me. While the center did get a bit of financial support from NASA Goddard, it was, for all intents and purposes, self-funded. This meant that tuition levels were dictated primarily by staff salaries, benefits, and overhead, and enrollment numbers. In childcare, annual tuition is essentially the expected budget divided by the expected number of students. This is the basic equation for virtually all childhood development providers. It presents a set of unique challenges that get in the way of what matters most, which is providing quality childcare. It's often referred to as a trilemma, a continual effort to balance the three-legged stool of accessibility, affordability, and quality. I share this knowledge of the business challenges because I also saw firsthand how difficult it was for early childhood professionals to provide care that is accessible, meaning there's a place to go, and one that has openings, affordable, a family can afford the tuition, and meets the quality we expect for our youngest learners. So teachers that can take care of our children have appropriate credentials and can make a livable wage with benefits like health insurance. This is hard. And yet, we need high-quality childcare. It is essential not only for our kids, but also for our families and the broader workforce to thrive. Despite the critical role early education professionals play, they remain largely unrepresented on the State Board of Education, our state's highest educational regulatory body. As implementation of the Blueprint Pillar on Universal Pre-K continues, having a board member who is knowledgeable about all aspects of providing early childhood education is critical to successfully enacting the mixed delivery model of pre-K, and therefore the overall success of the Blueprint. Maryland has made historic contributions to advancing education. This bill will provide a needed voice for our youngest learners and the providers and businesses that nurture them. A dedicated board member focusing on the needs of the child care ecosystem as a whole is key to our success over the long haul. I'd like to make a couple quick comments. There's a letter from MSDE in your file, and I wanted to note that that letter it states that the bill is asking for an additional member to be added to the state board. That is not the case. This bill asks that one of the existing 13 members be well-versed in business and educational aspects of early childhood. In addition, the board notes that the Office of Child Care Advisory Council would not be the appropriate location for selecting or creating the list of candidates to be this member of the board. I'm happy to work with the board on an alternative approach if they're willing to consider that. And finally, I'd like to thank the advocates who have submitted written testimony and hope you all will have the opportunity to review it. Thank you, and I respectfully request a favorable report on HB 659.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Any questions on this bill? Okay, seeing no questions, we will end the hearing on House Bill 659 and move to House Bill 541. You do have a sponsor panel for this one. I have Paula Seabright, Karen Nelson, and Isha Andy.
Again, good afternoon, Chair Wilkins and members of the Ways and Means Committee. And again, I am Delegate Pam Gazzoni, representing Howard County's District 13. And I'm here in support of House Bill 541, which would require that public schools regularly restock menstrual hygiene product dispensers in the restrooms where they are currently installed. Access to menstrual hygiene let me go a little slower here. Access to menstrual hygiene products in our schools is not a luxury. It is a basic necessity that directly impacts students' abilities to learn. When these products are unavailable, students can miss valuable instruction time, experience unnecessary stress, and face avoidable barriers to participation in the school day. Ensuring consistent access is essential to supporting student health, dignity, and academic success. In fact, the impetus for this bill came from a group of young women in Howard County who have seen this challenge and wanted to do something about it. In 2021, this body passed HB 205, which required that public schools install menstrual product dispensers in girls' restrooms. While the dispensers have gotten installed, some schools have failed to routinely stock their dispensers, leaving dispensers empty and products unavailable. This lack of restocking leaves students without reliable access to essential hygiene products, increasing stress and embarrassment, causing missed class times, and disproportionately impacting low-income students who may already struggle to afford these supplies. HB 541 corrects this oversight by requiring that schools restock their dispensers routinely, just as they would do with toilet paper, soap, and paper towels, ensuring that students can manage their monthly cycles with the lowest possible impact. Let's create a Maryland where our female students do not need to worry about access to these products and can focus on staying in the classroom and getting the quality education they deserve. I respectfully request a favorable report on HB 541. And I'd like to turn it over to Isha, a Howard County resident of District 9B, who, along with a number of other young women from across Howard County, brought this issue to their state legislators, including myself. I'm very pleased that she is able to be with us and testify today.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Isha Ande, and I'm a current high school senior and proud constituent from Legislative District 9B. I'm here today to speak in strong support of House Bill 541. After the initial passage of House Bill 205 in 2021, menstrual products were made available to the broader student population. The concept of the bill was powerful and necessary. It acknowledged that menstrual products are not a luxury, but a basic need. Anytime I forgot to pack an extra pad or tampon or found myself needing an emergency product, I could go to the restroom closest to my class and access one, until I couldn't. Too often, when students try and use this service, we're met with empty dispensers. Instead of relief, we feel panic. We're forced to sneakily ask friends, whispering in hallways, hoping someone has something to spare. It becomes an embarrassment ritual that many of us know all too well. And for students who may not have the financial means to consistently afford products at home, the panic is not occasional, it's a routine. I speak in support of this bill today to ensure that a well-intentioned bill doesn't go to waste. The passage of HB 541 would ensure that dispensers are constantly stocked so that access is reliable, not random. It means that a student who needs a product first thing in the morning can quietly walk into a restroom and get one, without stigma, without explanation, and without fear. It means that students no longer have to sit through class distracted and uncomfortable, tying sweatshirts around their waists or worrying about humiliation instead of focusing on learning. Access to menstrual products is about dignity, it's about equity, and it's about ensuring that no student's education is disrupted by something completely natural and unavoidable. Members of the Ways and Means Committee, I urge you to support House Bill 541. The changes that this bill introduces have the potential to make meaningful and lasting differences to the student population across Maryland. You have the opportunity to ensure that the promise of past legislation is fully realized. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Chair Wilkins, Chair Feldmark, wherever you are, and members of the committee, my name is Paula Seabright, and I'm the co-chair of the Women's Giving Circle of Howard County's Grants Committee. I am also the chair of the Young Women's Giving Circle intern program. Our 10 high school interns learn about philanthropy, collective giving, leadership, and advocacy through supporting our organization's effort to impact period poverty. The Maryland General Assembly passed legislation in 2021 requiring public K-12 school systems to install period product dispensers in some restrooms in their schools. As our interns explored this requirement in Howard County, they found that while the dispensers were installed, they were empty most of the time. All of my interns had a horror story about a classmate who needed a product and couldn't find it quickly. I won't go into details. If you've had a period, you know, or you know someone who has, you've heard everything I have. 1 in 5 menstruating students report missing school because they can't afford a period product. This puts students at risk of falling behind in their studies, or if they choose to go to school while using something other than a product designed for menstrual flow, they risk illness. Of course, there are many educators in our schools who keep a supply of products for their students, provided at their own expense. Students can go to the health room in their school as well, and maybe they won't have to ask for a product or get scolded for taking enough to get through the day. The simplest way to make life easy and school less horrifying for menstruating students is to require dispensers are stocked, as House Bill 541 lays out. A quick trip to the restroom and then back to class instead of an epic journey through a building to search for a product like Indiana Jones pursuing the Holy Grail. Of course, Indy found the Holy Grail, which makes him more successful than a kid trying to find a tampon in school. On behalf of the Women's Giving Circle and in support of every menstruating student you know and love, I urge this committee to vote in favor of this legislation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Karen Nelson. I'm the president and CEO of Planned Parenthood of Maryland. Our organization has been in existence in Maryland for about 100 years, providing healthcare services. And we also provide a full education program to youth-serving leaders, to teachers, to parents, and to students in high schools. And I'm here to tell you, I don't want to repeat everything that was said, but I'm here to tell you these are the stories that our health educators hear from high school students all the time. Yes, the dispensers are there. Yes, the dispensers are empty. And yes, it causes problems every single day. You know, you all are caring people. You care about youth. You care about students, your parents. You have daughters. And you know that for students to be able to succeed, they need to have the tools in their toolbox to succeed. That includes education, that includes good health, and that includes their dignity. So the state legislature went so far as to require the dispensers to be there. Put some supplies in them. It's important. It's not a check the box thing. These are stories that we have students telling us that impact their dignity and their ability to get through the school day. And I noted, I went to the restroom because I do work at Planned Parenthood. I'm not afraid to talk about bodily functions here. I went to the restroom before I came in, and guess what? Full supply of pads and tampons. If we can do that for our elected officials, if we can do that for the public that come into the room, we certainly can do that for the students who are our future. So thank you for letting me testify today, and I urge a favorable report.
Any questions for this panel? All right, well, thank you so much, Delegate, for bringing this bill. We appreciate it. We do have 2 other people signed up with in person. This panel of witnesses can be dismissed, and we'll bring up 2 additional individuals, Cassie Hewitt and Charlamagne Douglas. Are those witnesses here? I don't see them. Okay. Not seeing them. That ends the bill hearing on House Bill 541. Thank you, everyone. We will now go to the next bill, which is Delegate Wu. Thank you for your patience. House Bill 531.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I bring, I have a lot of panelists for this one, so you are laughing. So I'll bring them in 2 batches.
No problem. Let me look at my list here and make sure we have the.
Or you want to call names, it's fine too.
I have a few pages of witnesses, so let me get to the front here.
Okay. Come. How about it?
You can go ahead and call who you'd like up first. Go ahead.
You want to come here? Yeah. So then we'll get to 1. Okay. Should I start? Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and members of the Ways and Means Committee. And for the record, I'm Delegate Chao from District 9A. Here I'm presenting Bill 531. HB 531 established a public school STEM and the robotics program task force, or not a task force. And the good news is there's no physical node. The purpose of this task force is to study existing STEM and robotics program in Maryland and other states to determine the feasibility of expanding competitive STEM and robotics opportunities across our public school and bringing more opportunities for our students. STEM and robotics programs are proven to engage students and prepare them for future careers. According to a longitudinal study by First Robotics, students who participate in structured robotics program are 2 to 3 times more likely to pursue STEM majors and eventually get a STEM career than their peers. However, access to this opportunity in Maryland is very inconsistent. There's a resource gap from both the families and the schools. We believe schools will be a place where to provide more consistent resource and opportunities for all students. Currently, the Maryland State Department of Education has awarded $350,000 toward the robotics program across 1,419 public schools statewide. Where, when divided evenly, you can see it's only around $247 per school. To put that figure in the context, VEX registration costs $200, FAO Challenge registration costs $275, FTC registration costs $325, and FRC registration costs $6,300. In other words, current statewide funding does not even cover the registration costs for a single elementary, middle, and robotics high school robotics team, let alone equipment, travel, and support and outreach. HB 531 responds to this gap by creating a temporary study-focused task force. The task force will collect data on how existing programs are structured and how much they cost and how they are funded. It will also examine how other states support their competitive STEM and the robotics program. For example, states such as Indiana actually have developed statewide robotics ecosystem by coordinating school systems, nonprofit organizations, and industry support. Here we'll get some of them testified to support this effort as well. This task force will evaluate what structure made those models successful and whether similar approaches could work in Maryland. Importantly, the task force will include a balanced group of stakeholders, members of General Assembly, state education workforce agencies, local school systems, and nonprofit organizations already delivering STEM and robotics programming. This ensures that recommendations are informed by both policy consideration and classroom reality. In closing, HB 531 gives Maryland the opportunity to thoughtfully evaluate how we strengthen STEM and robotics education statewide. And thank you. I'm looking forward to a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Next person can please go.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins and members of the committee. My name is Shelley Stoddard. I'm the Vice President of First Chesapeake, the official FIRST robotics partner organization serving Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. We operate the third largest First Tech Challenge region in the world, and I'm here today in strong support of House Bill 531. I want to tell you what I see on the ground because it's the reason the task force matters. Right now, whether a Maryland student gets access to competitive STEM and robotics depends almost entirely on which county they live in, which school they attend, and whether a volunteer steps forward to start a team. There is no statewide system, no consistent funding, no coordinated strategy, and the result is unequal access and missed opportunity. We serve thousands of students across the region, and the outcomes speak for themselves. 89% of FIRST alumni pursue STEM majors. 75% of our alum enter STEM careers. Female participants are more than 5 times as likely to major in computer science than their peers. These aren't enrichment numbers, these are workforce pipeline results. 2 comparisons matter here. Michigan invests $5.6 million annually in robotics education and leads the nation with over 525 high school teams and 12 years of documented results. Our neighbor Virginia is already moving in that direction. The Virginia High School League now recognizes robotics as an official activity. Virginia has an existing STEM-C competition team grant program and is actively working to expand that funding. Maryland students deserve the same momentum. HB 531 takes a smart, measured approach. Study what exists, identify the gaps, and recommend a path forward. That is exactly the right first step. I urge a favorable report on House Bill 531. Thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Eric Davis. I am a U.S. Army veteran and the Executive Director of the STEM Center of Excellence and the Maryland STEM Education to Employment Ecosystem, MSE3. I rise in strong support of House Bill 531, which establishes a public school STEM and robotics program task force to evaluate and determine the feasibility of competitive robotics programs statewide. This is the logical next step following House Bill 115 of 2016, which sought to increase robotics programs in Maryland public schools. Through the STEM Center of Excellence, I've helped launch more than 30 robotics teams across Greater Baltimore. Our Fibonacci centers provide year-round robotics workspace that reduce reliance on individual school budgets. Through MSE3, we align industry, education, government, and nonprofit partners, including First Chesapeake and Let's Go with STEM, to build structured pathways from learning to livelihood. What we have learned is this: talent is everywhere, but the opportunity is not. There are a lot of not yet reached communities across Maryland where no robotics program exists. Without statewide structure, funding alignment, and coordinated policy, those students remain outside of the arena. Unlike many other sports, robotics is the one sport where everyone can go pro. The skills students develop, computational thinking, engineering design, collaboration, cybersecurity awareness, all translate directly into high-demand careers. There are no pro league draft caps. The workforce is the league. Currently, robotics depends largely on school capacity, a willing teacher or a willing parent, creating inequity, fragmentation, and an unsustainable solution. Combined with the structured competition pathways from school teams to regional championships to a Maryland State Championship, we can create sustainable statewide infrastructure. This task force can define that structured pathway for our public schools. In Maryland, every child deserves a chance to go pro, and in robotics, going pro means going to work. I respectfully request a favorable support.
Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee, my name is Ed Mullen, and I am the Executive Director of Let's Go, a Maryland-based nonprofit dedicated to expanding access to competitive robotics and STEM programming for the students across our state. On behalf of Let's Go, the students, educators, and families we serve, I respectfully urge a favorable report on House Bill 531. House Bill 531 establishes the Public Schools STEM and Robotics Program Task Force to study existing STEM and robotics programs in Maryland and other states, determine the feasibility of implementing competitive STEM and robotics programs statewide, and this is the thoughtful, measured approach that Maryland needs to ensure that every student has access to high-quality, competitive STEM opportunities regardless of their zip code. Across Maryland, robotics programs are transforming students' lives. These programs develop not only technical skills in coding, engineering, and design, but also essential workforce competencies such as teamwork, project management, problem solving, and communications. Competitive robotics mirrors real-world engineering environments, preparing students for careers in cybersecurity, software development, advanced manufacturing, aerospace, and other high-growth industries critical to Maryland's economy. Our alumni, Lloyd Hardy, will talk a little bit about his student journey through the STEM pathways to a career. However, to access these programs remains inconsistent. Some counties have robust robotics teams and strong local support, while others are lacking the funding, staffing, and infrastructure to launch sustainable programs. House 531 creates a collaborative structure bringing together legislators, the state superintendent, secretaries of labor and commerce, local school representatives, and nonprofit STEM leaders to evaluate best practices, funding models, implementation strategies. Importantly, the task force is also charged with studying feasibility for recognizing competitive robotics as a varsity sport in high school.
Thank you, sir.
Let's Go stands ready to assist the task force with data, program models.
Sir, we need, you're over your 2 minutes. If you could just wrap, please.
For these reasons, we respectfully request a favorable report on House Bill 531.
Thank you, and just for my record, so I can mark you off, can you state your name again, please?
Ed Mullen.
Thank you. All right, next witness.
Good afternoon. My name is Lloyd Hardy. I'm a software developer of the past 5 years. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come here and speak today. I first got introduced to robotics when I was in high school when Let's Go came and sponsored our STEM team. Before this, I was on the school's football team. And I remember our coach came to us and said, listen, if you're on this team, you have to put everything into it because this is how you're going to succeed in the future, and this is your way to success. And I remember sitting there with the highest SAT score in the school thinking, I don't think so. Through Let's Go, working with my school and sponsoring our robotics team, I was able to learn skills and mentorship that helped me become the man that I am today. Let's Go, the company that sponsored our team, introduced me to Carter Rock Naval Base, where I was able to apply and get an internship for the summer, working with other engineers, getting hands-on experience, and learning the field that I wanted to be in. After my internship, I worked regular retail jobs for 2 years, and the grocery store that I worked at closed down, and I was unemployed for a few months, trying to figure out how I would take care of my autistic son. I remember one day I was heading out the door for an internship at Hot and Juicy Crawfish, and I got a phone call from Let's Go, and they remember me from all those years in the past. They remember what I did from the robotics team, the effort that I put in, the work that I did, and they told me that they had a job opportunity and all I had to do was apply, and if I had the qualifications, then I could get it. That was 5 years ago today, and I've been working as a software developer ever since, and I learned how to do that from the robotics team. Without that opportunity, without that, I have no idea what I'd be doing and where I'd be. So that's why I'm in favor of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks to this panel. Are there any questions? Delegate Patterson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you very much, Delegate Wu, for bringing this bill to our attention. In looking at the recommended members of the task force, I note there's nothing, no representation cited for post-secondary institutions, i.e. two-year colleges or four-year colleges. Would you be amenable to adding a representative from a post-secondary institution as well?
Sure, Delegate Patterson, yeah.
Thank you very much. I think it's really essential because I know in my district in Charles County, we have a great relationship with the College of Southern Maryland supporting these initiatives in robotics, particularly with students that have limited exposure to this technology. So thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have any other questions? Okay, so as we move forward, we do have a couple more panels, and I'm going to call up the names to make it a little bit easier. When you are up here, it doesn't matter what order you go in. If you can just be ready and chime in, grab the mic and chime in and utilize your up to 2 minutes to speak. And we're very glad that every single person has come and waited in order to speak, and we're looking forward to hearing everyone's testimony. So this panel of witnesses is dismissed, and I'll call up the next group. Lloyd, is Lloyd here? Lloyd, I'm sorry. Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. We'll go to Victoria Yao, Angeli Madanini, Leah Younga, Michael Yu.
Go. You want to come together, group? Okay. They want to go to group.
They're coming up as a group. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll allow that. Go ahead. I'll allow you to figure that out, Delegate Wu.
Okay, you figure it out.
Just there. Okay.
I'll give you a chance.
It's okay. Thank you.
The one thing, I know you're testifying as a group, the one thing that we will need is your names for the record, so as long as we get each of your names. Anyone can go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and members of the Ways and Means Committee. We are all-girls FTC team, Gear Rotation 18442, based in Howard County, Maryland. We're here to testify in support of House Bill 531.
Even as our software lead, I came in with very little coding experience, but thanks to the mentorship, resources, and support from our community, I've learned not just the technical, but the life skills, such as how to present myself and how to network with professionals. Without the public speaking skills I developed over the past 4 years, through judging sessions and outreach events, I might not have had the confidence to come here and testify today.
Robotics competition should be treated just like sports. We practice for long hours, refine our robot again and again, and attend and compete in complex qualification systems just to earn a spot at the next round. On the competition floor, there are tears, cheers, and lots of pressure. We scout opponents, we build strategies with our partners, and we make split-second decisions. The only difference between sports and robotics is that our field is made of tiles instead of turf. The teamwork, passion, and dedication are all the same.
Robotics takes an incredible amount of dedication. For an average team of 10 people, 60 hours are spent at meetings and 10 hours are spent commuting to meetings per week. Additionally, 100 hours are spent volunteering per month, along with 20 in-state competition days and 25 out-of-state competition days per year. The amount of time spent on travel alone per season can amount to 500 hours per family. The cost of all of this can add up to $15,000 a year.
We all come from middle-class families and are incredibly grateful to our parents and coaches for making it all possible, but not all families can absorb these costs. Many students from low-income families don't have the same access to resources, creating a real equity gap.
House Bill 531 provides the opportunity for the task force to expand STEM and robotics programs in our community. We urge a favorable report on House Bill 531. Thank you.
Amazing. Now that's how you do it, ladies. Let's give them a round of. All right. I would like all of our advocates and lobbyists in the room to take note of five people in 2 minutes. Great job. Now, ladies, I don't know if we got all of your names. If you can just please state your name and what school you go to.
My name is Tiffany Luan, and I go to the Bryn Mawr School.
Great.
My name is Violet Yang, and I go to River Hill High School.
My name is Victoria Yao, and I go to River Hill High School. My name is Isha Netla, and I go to Marriott's Ridge High School.
My name is Anjali Madanani, and I go to Glenelg High School.
Wonderful. Well, excellent, excellent job. Thank you. That'll be hard to top, but we're going to go to our next witness.
Should I just leave now? Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins and esteemed members of the committee, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Mike Yu, and I've been coaching First Tech Challenge, Team 19458 Equilibrium.exe for the past 7 years. My journey began in early 2019 as a parent, simply trying to find a team for my child. It wasn't easy. We faced rejection after rejection from established teams that had no room for new members due to the lack of school support and teams. Finally, in September 2019, we found a community-based team willing to take my child in. Then on December 25th, 2019, Christmas Day, we received devastating news. Our coach has suddenly passed away. She was an engineer at Goddard NASA Space Flight Center, and I was just a parent. We believed our season and our journey was over, but something extraordinary happened. 4 highly experienced teams in our area stepped in. They mentored us, trained us, and helped our students learn enough to finish the season. That year, we advanced to regionals and received the Judges Cinderella Award. It was a testament to resilience, mentorship, and community. One student on that team had been in the United States for only 2 years. She confided in me that she wanted to major in computer science, but her parents discouraged her, believing it would be too difficult for a girl and that she should pursue business instead. Today, she's a senior in college, majoring in computer science and artificial intelligence. I can confidently say that First gave her the confidence to pursue her passion and showed her parents she could succeed. That's why I continue to coach. Based on a First 10-year longitudinal impact study by Brandeis University, 63% of First alumni are employed in STEM fields. And the program operates in 114 countries. Robotics is the only sport where every student can go pro. Beyond robotics, students gain community service experience, develop critical skills such as time management, project management, communication, leadership, and problem solving. But it's more than the classroom of theory, it's hands-on. First doesn't just build robots, it builds futures. I urge a favorable report for House Bill 531 move out of committee. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of Ways and Means Committee. My name is Leah Younga, and I'm a 6th grader. Today I'm here to testify in strong support of HB
House Bill 531. I believe this bill is an important first step towards shaping the future of education in Maryland. Even though I may look young, I have been participating in robotics for 4 years through after-school programs. Robotics has helped me grow not just academically, but personally. It has strengthened my confidence, my teamwork skills, and the way I think through problems. I have experienced firsthand how powerful hands-on STEM education can be. As I look ahead to high school, I hope robotics can be more than just an extracurricular activity. I hope it can be recognized as a sport and a competitive academic pathway. Not every student connects with traditional sports, but many students connect with coding, engineering, and building. House Bill 531 opens the door to studying how robotics programs can expand across our state so that more students have that opportunity. There may be a 9th grader right now who feels unsure about their future, but is curious about technology. Imagine that student discovering a competitive robotics program at their school. That opportunity could change their life. It could inspire a future engineer, programmer, or innovator. It could change the direction of their education and even their community. We all know that our world is becoming more technological. Coding, automation, and robotics are not the future. They are the present. Maryland should lead in preparing students for that reality. A STEM and robotics task force will allow experts to study what works and analyze programs in Maryland and other states, and determine how we can build strong competitive opportunities for all students. This bill is not just about robots. It is about equity. It is about giving students who may not participate in traditional athletics a place to compete, grow, and belong. It is about strengthening critical thinking, problem-solving, and innovation skills. It is about preparing Maryland students to succeed in great colleges, strong careers, and leadership roles. I respectfully ask for a favorable report on House Bill 531. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mia. Excellent job. We have some impressive students today, so congratulations and thank you, everyone, for your time and your advocacy. It really makes a difference. So I think that's the end of this panel, but are there any questions for this group? All right.
Thank you.
All right, seeing none, thank you. I'll call up the next few people on my list. If you've already testified, just disregard. Erin Camp Mansour, Violet Yang, who I think just testified, Josephine Mansour, Lily Tang, and Shariah Shanoy. Are any of those individuals? Okay, come on up.
I guess I'll start. Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and members of the committee. My name is Josie Mansour. I'm a senior at Mount Hebron High School in Ellicott City, project manager of our FRC robotics team, and president of the Society of Women Engineers Club. I'm here to testify in support of HB 531. Thank you, Delegate Wu, for sponsoring this important legislation. I joined the robotics club as a freshman, and by my sophomore year, I was the only girl of about 40 members. The club was almost entirely teenage boys, and there was one female mentor. The rest were men. Each fall, a few girls show up to our first meetings, but by competition season in January, they're gone. And it's not for lack of interest or ability. It's because being the only girl in the room creates an environment that's isolating by nature. Last year, our public high school robotics team qualified for the World Championship, and I became the first female project manager in our team's 14-year history. We were awarded $15,000 from the MSDE robotics grant this fall, which helps us cover our competition expenses and expand student participation and outreach. It funds scholarships for low-income students, travel, outreach initiatives with our local middle school, and activities with the Society of Women Engineers Club. We've brought the percentage of women on our team from 5 to 15% since receiving this grant. I've seen how state support improves participation in programs like robotics, especially for underrepresented groups like women, racial and ethnic minorities, and low-income students. A statewide task force would identify and reduce gaps in access to STEM opportunities, ensuring that all Maryland students can have these experiences that make them college and career ready. Thank you for this opportunity to testify, and I hope you'll issue a favorable committee report for HB 531.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and members of the committee. My name is Lily Tang, and I am a freshman at Mount Hebron High School. I am also a member of the Ragnarok Robotics team and the Society of Women Engineers Club. I'm here today to testify in support of HB 531. The robotics community has connected me with countless other students, now friends, who have shared interests, aiding my transition into high school by connecting me with others who are also into tech. As someone in Girl Scouts and Scouting America, my robotics connections are an invaluable resource for completing my Gold Award and Eagle project. In addition to connections, robotics became a factor in my acceptance to Johns Hopkins STEM Academy at their Applied Physics Lab. Robotics allows students in our community to connect with others and develop skills that greatly improve their college and career readiness and confidence to pursue higher education and careers in STEM fields. Here at Robotics, we have amazing volunteer mentors who spend hundreds of their personal time hours helping us learn the engineering process, iterative testing methods, teamwork, and management skills, while offering connections to technology and engineering companies that may offer internships and job opportunities to us one day. We are learning to present our ideas, problem solve, and overcome challenges, abilities that are invaluable in the STEM work environment. We hope you will include teacher advisors, mentors, and students currently participating in robotics clubs as part of your task force. We have valuable experience you can use to expand access to STEM education and make it more equitable. It takes a lot of work to establish competitive robotics teams, and it will take all of us to establish programs across Maryland. Thank you for your opportunity to testify today. We hope you will issue a favorable committee report for HB 531.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and members of the committee. My name is Shreya Shenoy. I'm a freshman at Mount Hebron High School, a member of the Ragnarok Robotics team and the Society of Women Engineers Club. I'm here today to testify in support of HB 531. Our team and many schools compete under an organization called FIRST Robotics. FIRST hosts international robotics tournaments for K-12 students. These competitions build STEM interest, teach technical and life skills, and connect students to future career opportunities and scholarships. Many of the teams that compete in FIRST are private schools with large donors or charge steep dues or even require applications. Our public school team is open door, but we still rely on volunteer mentors and private funding. According to the FIRST longitudinal study, STEM skills help advance society and have among the highest paying careers. A, quote, nearly 11% increase in STEM occupations between 2022 and 2032, end quote, was projected by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2023. Yet there are currently less and less people choosing to pursue STEM. However, young women who participate in FIRST robotics were over twice as likely to major in engineering and 3.7 times more likely to major in computer science compared to their peers. Females, economically disadvantaged groups, and underrepresented racial and ethnic groups were all more likely to major and work in STEM with FIRST. Creating a STEM and robotics program task force ensures Maryland students are prepared for the STEM careers of our future economy. Please issue a favorable committee report for HB 531, and thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'd also like to thank Delegate Ebersole for being a co-sponsor for the MSDE Robotics Grant Program. Thank you.
You did a great job.
Wait, okay. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Mia Yunga, and it is my great honor to testify in support of HB 531. You might be wondering, why would a sixth grader care about a bill that focuses on high school robotics programs? The answer is simple. Because HB 531 is not just about creating a task force to analyze the feasibility of robotics becoming a sport. It is about our future. Engineering, innovation, and technology are shaping the world we are growing up in. While robotics may seem like just an activity, it represents something much bigger: opportunity, preparation, and direction for students like me. I've been practicing robotics since 3rd grade, Since then, I've learned far more than how to build and code robots. Robotics has helped me build confidence in my ideas, in my voice, and in my ability to solve problems. It has taught me teamwork, leadership, and how to think critically when something does not work the first time. You may still wonder how HB 531 affects middle school students. What happens in high school influences what we prepare for in middle school. Knowing that robotics could be a recognized competitive sport in high school helps students like me see a pathway. It helps us think seriously about engineering, computer science, and other STEM careers. It gives us something to work toward. HB 531 is about recognizing that robotics is more than just a club. For many of us, it is a passion. It is about where we find community. It is where students who may not fit into traditional athletic discover that they can compete, collaborate, and excel. When this bill moves forward, it will bring together students from across Maryland who share a love for building, coding, and innovating. It could strengthen teamwork across schools and create a longer generation of problem solvers and future engineers. HB 531 is the start of something bigger than robotics. Thank you for listening.
Excellent job. Thank you so much, ladies. Excellent job representing this issue, and we appreciate you making your voices heard. Are there any questions for this panel of witnesses? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Is there anyone else here in person, because I've lost track at this point? Is there anyone else who signed up who's here in person on this bill? Okay, making sure I didn't miss anyone. Having no other witnesses, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 531. Thank you so much, Delegate, for bringing this bill. All right, next up, House Bill 525, Delegate Boafo. If you have specific witnesses you'd like up with you, you can call them up.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, who I don't see. Let me just start by saying congratulations on all your new leadership roles, and it's always great to be back in Ways and Means, and to all the members on the committee, good to see you guys as well. For the record, Delegate Adrian Boafo here to present House Bill 525, the Maryland Phone-Free School Act. As this committee knows all too well, every session in a bipartisan fashion, legislation is introduced to limit the usage of phones in our schools, emphasizing just how important this issue is to families and to constituents across our great state of Maryland. This year alone, 3 bills were filed in the House on this issue. And I want to personally take a moment to thank Delegate Sarah Wolak for her leadership on this issue. Because of her, we've added some really strong amendments to this bill, and I'm grateful to have her as a lead co-sponsor on the Maryland Phone-Free School Act. HB 525 requires every county board of education to adopt a bell-to-bell phone-free policy to ensure phones are inaccessible to students during the school day. It also requires schools to implement network-level filtering so social media platforms cannot be accessed on school grounds during a set amount of time. Right now, as you all know, phones are seriously disrupting our classrooms. Nearly 95% of students report using their phones during class, many for more than a couple hours a day. That is lost instructional time, and it forces teachers to compete with notifications and group chats and endless scrolling. And frankly, that is not a fair fight. This isn't just about devices, it's about social media as well. These platforms are engineered to capture attention, to trigger emotional responses, and to keep students hooked. In too many cases, students are learning from content feeds instead of what is being taught in their classrooms. And the harm goes way beyond academics. In 2024, as many of you know, the United States Surgeon General warned the excessive social media usage is linked to rising anxiety, depression, and social isolation among young people. Some of the witnesses here today can speak about those impacts that they've experienced firsthand. Schools should be places where students can focus, build real relationships, and frankly, feel supported. The House passed this bill, and I want to thank this committee for its leadership last year. And since then, we've all gotten together to make this bill a whole lot stronger. I've submitted amendments to strengthen this language, to remove 2 exceptions, to ensure that it's more enforceable, and to add clear definitions of social media so that all major platforms can be covered under this bill. At a time when Maryland is making such historic investments in education, we cannot allow the constant digital distraction to undermine this progress. The Maryland Phone Free School Act restores focus, it supports our teachers, and protects students' well-being. Madam Chair, before I yield to my panel and urge for a favorable report, I will say you're going to hear some really powerful testimony today, and I think it takes a lot for folks across the state to come up here and present in front of all of us. And so I just want to take a moment of personal privilege to thank all of you guys for being here. And with that, Madam Chair, I will urge a favorable report on HB 525.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Betsy Tao, and I have 2 children in Montgomery County Public Schools. I represent the MCCPTA as its Technology Committee Chair, and I'm also part of Distraction Free Schools Maryland, representing over 900 Maryland parents who signed a letter of support in support of a strong phone-free schools bill. I am honored to be here today to testify in support of House Bill 525. This bill represents what Maryland needs, a K-12 prohibition on personal devices throughout the entire school day with a requirement for inaccessible storage with limited exceptions. The storage requirement is especially important. In Montgomery County, where a device ban was extended to middle schools this year with no storage requirement, classroom device holders stand empty, and my shared phone pings during the school day with messages from my daughter's friends. A bell-to-bell policy without storage is not enough. I'm so very grateful to Delegate Boafo and sponsors of other similar bills for taking action on this critical issue. I'm deeply concerned that only a small percentage of our students are on track to be college and career ready, and by reports from colleges that students, even at elite schools, struggle to read a book, think critically, and write coherently. All around me, I see evidence of why. Once children receive personal devices, they spend the majority of their time scrolling, spending an average of 6 to 8 hours a day on screens for entertainment, even higher for students from low-income Black and Hispanic backgrounds. It is absolutely critical that we protect the school day as a space where all students are free from the distractions of addictive personal devices so they can learn, socialize, and connect with peers and teachers. House Bill 525 is aligned with the science of learning, aligned with what the majority of parents and educators want, and provides a consistent policy for all Maryland school districts. Therefore, I urge this committee to support this bill. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, committee members, and thank you for hearing me today. My name is Christy McComas. I'm the mother of Grace, for whom Maryland's Grace's Law was named. We lost our joyful, kind-hearted child to suicide on Easter Sunday of 2012 at the dawn of smartphone and social media availability. The hateful cyberbullying aimed at our young teen was shocking in and of itself, but at the time, no one understood the invasive and pervasive nature of the abuse. Instantaneously amplified, far-reaching, and inescapable. The research now shows cyberbullying is an independent risk factor for depression and suicidality, and the trajectory of smartphone adoption tracks very closely with an alarming decline in child mental health and lowered cognitive ability. We are now in the midst of a serious public health crisis for the safety and well-being of our children, and these electronic devices should not be accessible during the school day. Over the years, families have reached out for help through Grace's memorial page. Let me share just one chilling call for help. It came from a Maryland mom who had been told by the Maryland State Police Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force and NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, that her child was on XXX porn sites. Child sexual abuse material, or CSAM, was using AI, taking her head from a family vacation photo as a preteen and attaching it to the body of another person. Some of the men paying to use the website were also paying to supposedly interact with her fake persona in horribly lewd chat rooms. Shockingly, one of these men used reverse facial recognition to find her in real life and was trying to contact her, throwing the family into deep crisis, as you can imagine. An investigation found that it was a high school classmate who was spoofing multiple girls across multiple sites, and he was using his phone during school hours to do so. I don't have time to share the rest. There's a lot more in my written testimony that I hope you will look at, but it includes real Maryland families in crisis where smartphones were used to harass and harm, sometimes to death. Maryland is a national leader in child protection, and the passage of HB 525 is the next needed step. Thank you for your consideration.
Chair Wilkins, members of the committee, thank you for your time today. I'm Lauren Lamb with the Maryland State Education Association, representing 76,000 educators across Maryland. The need for cell phone policies is a unifying issue among educators. A poll of educators by the National Education Association found 90% support for implementing policies banning the use of cell phones during teaching time. And it's no coincidence that 83% of educators report that students are having a difficult time concentrating and completing assignments. We know that personal devices and many of the apps and sites that we use are designed to be addictive. And this is not an issue that students should need to overcome with sheer self-discipline. It is impractical and often ineffective to enforce cell phone bans on a classroom-by-classroom basis, as any teacher will tell you. We appreciate that this bill would require county-wide consistent policies that include thoughtful exceptions for emergency, health, or documented educational needs. We also especially appreciate that the bill is clear that these policies should be implemented by school administrators to create consistent school-wide norms about not using devices during the school day, from the bell that starts the day to the dismissal bell. We appreciate that the regularly updated policies developed under this bill would include the input of the community, educators, students, and their families to ensure that the policies keep pace with changing technology and local contexts. We urge the committee to issue a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I believe that two characteristics of H525 make it very worth passing. First, the policy being bell-to-bell is essential for it to have an entirely positive effect. This gives students the opportunities we need during breaks to cultivate meaningful friendships in person and grow in healthy, natural ways that screens disrupt. Furthermore, the school environment is made significantly safer when the most efficient means for students to bully each other, interact with online predators on, and receive toxic social media content on is removed. I especially appreciate the fact that this bill guarantees my peers 8 hours per day to be liberated from the shackling influences of the addictive smart device. Inaccessibility is my second point, and it is a defining feature of how effective the policy is. I know my peers, and I know that many of them, especially when the policy is initially put in place, will do what they can to get around it, which you can't blame them for. It's not their fault they've been handed one of the most addictive products on the market. But you have helped them by recognizing it's not fair to expect kids to self-regulate with the digital equivalent of a cigarette. To conclude, I will share what I promised a classmate. I wouldn't tell the teacher, but I figured the Maryland legislature doesn't count, right? So it happens, he asked Siri for an answer in class through his Yonder bag since he hadn't turned his phone off. But the bigger problem is that he's only one of a good handful of students at my school who will take advantage of a teacher who trusts them to turn their phone off and lock up their phones. So having teachers be the phone police in the morning doesn't work if kids can still use phones in the bathroom. Best practice would be to have students give up their phones as they enter the building in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And to the student who just spoke, could you please state your name for the record?
Yes, Agnes Derrendinger.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Excellent job. Thanks for representing students on this panel. And I want to say to Ms. McComas our condolences and thank you for advocating using your voice. Do we have any questions for this panel? Delegate Ebersol.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I also applaud your bravery in coming here and talking to us today. I'm going to ask some technical questions, and that's good news because it means there's some things I want to get straightened out, and that's because I'm interested in ironing some wrinkles out that I see here. By the way, Lauren Lamb, I appreciate your comments about having equitable application of rules in the school is critical. If one teacher doesn't have to follow it, then the kids they play us off against each other. They're very good at it. This bill looks like a complete prohibition during the day to me, and there are various levels of this, and that's fine. Later in the bill, after you say that on page, okay, my page right here, page 2, prohibit the student from using electronic device during the academic school day. But later, when you're talking about a report, you refer to on page 4 grade level differentiation, and so I don't know if that was something that you thought would be more permissive or what we were looking for there. And well, go ahead and do that if you want to. I have another like terminology question that's got.
Sorry, Delegate, to be completely honest, I can barely hear you because you're so far from your mic.
That's rare.
Yes, it is. It is rare.
It is rare. And they're all looking at me like, what's wrong with me today? You talk about all-day prohibition, but then later when you're talking about reports, on page 4, you talk about grade level differentiation as part of the report. So I wonder if that's how they jibe.
No, Delegate, I think that's a good flag. I mean, because we put the amendments in now, moving from limiting to prohibition, we probably don't need that on page 4.
And when you say reports, there's 2 places where you talk about reports, and what you reference is the impacts of the implementation. That's a broad term. We probably would need to nail down specifically what impacts we're going to have them report on there.
I agree, but here's my thought on that. I mean, every county is going to look at impacts differently. And say in Prince George's County, we want to look at how test scores have improved. That's one thing. Say in Cecil County, sorry for anyone in Cecil County, but they want to look at how
he's gone.
Yeah, no, I saw him. They want to look at how school violence has reduced. That's really going to be a determination based off the county. I don't think every single county across the state needs to have the same report to us, but it really, frankly, Delegate, is a report for the residents of that community to really see and assess how phones are impacting them based off of whatever needs each county may have. But we can get more specific.
The danger there is if you're not specific, sometimes you get nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would like to put some structure into that, and I'd welcome your input on that.
Yes, happy to work with your subcommittee on specifics on the report.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Maricoon North.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Delegate, for bringing this bill. This is actually a timely issue because I was just talking to some constituents this weekend about this very subject, so I was looking forward to this bill hearing. The constituents I was talking to, shout out to the Sadani family, one of them is a baseball coach. So he's not a teacher, but he does coach. And he specifically gave me examples of, while the students were practicing, they would look at their phones, distractions. So are you open to possibly amending this bill to include like school-related activities? Because it's only focused on the school day, which is the hours of 7:30, 7:30 to 3 something. Are you open to expanding the bill to include those activities?
I would be open to it, Delegate. I think the fear is once you get outside of the bell-to-bell timeline, your parents definitely want to know where you are. Parents, the school has a level of responsibility when you're in the building, and say you step out, even if you're on the school site, but we're talking about after hours, that becomes a whole different ball game. I do think, to your point, though, every county needs to regulate how phones are used after hours as well. Frankly, they also have to regulate, in conjunction with parents and students, what happens off campus, off time. But I don't know if that's necessarily going to be something that we want to implement in this bill, because we really want to focus on the bell-to-bell timeline and not after or before.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Okay, no other questions. All right, seeing none, that's it for this panel of witnesses. Next up, I have Mickey Chandra, Mia Minor, and James Frank. And And then we do have an oral witness, 2 oral witnesses, but we'll go with the favorable. Zoo Shifra, we'll go with that individual first. But in-person witnesses, anyone can begin. Thank you.
Okay. Greetings. Thank you to the Ways and Means Committee for allowing me to share my family story today. Also, I want to thank the Delegate Balfo and the other delegates who introduced the bill, and Delegate Wolop for introducing Bill HB 525, Maryland Phones Free Schools Act. My name is Mia Minor, and my husband is Todd Minor. We are the parents of Matthew E. Minor, who we lost to a viral and harmful online social media challenge in March of 2019. To keep Matthew's legacy alive, we raise awareness of these deadly online harms and drive social media change. We established a foundation to promote online safety, well-being, and establish community awareness. We are residents also of Prince George's County, Maryland. I am also grateful to be working with the Distraction-Free Schools team, which is resilient in protecting our children from digital harms and ensuring education without hindrance. In 2024, HB 603 and SB 571 Maryland Kids Code were unanimously passed by the Maryland legislation and signed by Governor Moore because keeping our kids safe matters in Maryland. Since then, we have worked tirelessly and traveled to various awareness about these apps that continue to keep our children mentally tethered to their devices and games. It is addictive and controls their mental health, stability, and well-being. Just last week, my husband, Tom Minor, was in Los Angeles, California, showing support to our fellow grieving families who have suffered at the hands of harmful algorithms that are created to produce continued scrolling and engagement in our youth. Cyberbullying has increased substantially to more than half. 46% U.S. teens ages 13 to 17 have been bullied, and 22% reported being bullied on apps, and as well as 50% on online gaming. No child should be forced to have a phone or a social media app because their school or any extracurricular activity requires it, especially given the proven harmful and sometimes deadly effects of social media use. Smartphones use has led to significant academic all-time low that is harming our children, education, and physical health with obesity and sleep deprivation, injuries from online challenges, cyberbullying, and death. Teachers and administrations overwhelmingly want a full-day ban. They are on the front lines of having been seen and negative impact on students' mental health, learning, and ability to manage the classrooms for years in a National Education Association poll of 2,889 education, and 83% of educators support an all-day ban. Bottom line, children need an oasis during the school day when their brains can learn free of the harms of digital media. This is absolutely critical to the development and has lifelong impacts on themselves and society. March 7th marks the anniversary of our lovely son, Matthew, passing. His anniversary, as we call it, is especially hard since it's 2 days before my husband's birthday. And things will never be the same since the tragedy. But the present, what a present it would be to honor our son Matthew by passing this much needed bill. I ask that you pass this legislation in our children's best interest and for the future of our wonderful and beloved state of Maryland. I want to thank you and for your time today.
Thank you. Good afternoon again, esteemed members of the Maryland General Assembly. My name is Mickey Chandra. I'm a Montgomery County parent of 2 public school students, an active PTA member at the local, county, and state levels, and an educator with significant classroom experience. I'm here today in strong support of the Maryland Phone-Free Schools Act, HB 525. 2025 has been a turning point. Across Maryland, districts tried to tighten cell phone policies, but many of those updates have not worked. Why? Because they rely on students to self-enforce. And they leave teachers to police devices while also teaching. I experienced that in the classroom myself. We now have data to guide us. Research shared with governors nationwide shows that stricter bell-to-bell policies produce better outcomes. Fewer distractions means better learning. Less screen time improves social-emotional health. Classrooms run more smoothly. Teachers overwhelmingly support stronger policies because they want to teach, not compete with TikTok. Here's what we learned locally. Policies like off and away or away all day, where phones stay in backpacks, sound good on paper. But over time, phones are neither off nor away. They remain within reach. They become a constant temptation, and enforcement falls apart. In contrast, schools using secure bell-to-bell storage, where devices are collected and locked away until dismissal, have seen real success. Why? Because they solve 2 problems, proximity and accessibility. If the phone isn't within reach, it isn't a distraction. School resource officers have also made this very clear. Partial access does not improve safety. In fact, it can undermine safety. Secure storage from first bell to last bell creates a safer environment for students and staff. We cannot ignore the bullying, the filming of fights, the social media disruptions that spill into the classrooms. Access to phones means access to social media during lunch, during transitions, during class. HB 525 ensures that by fall 2026, every district has a clear, enforceable plan with proper storage and defined expectations. We do not have more time to lose. Our children deserve better classrooms. Our teachers deserve support. Please pass the Maryland Phone-Free Schools Act. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is James Frank. I live in Catonsville. My 2 boys go to Catonsville Middle School. They're in 6th grade. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to talk. Well, there's just a lot to say here, and I'm going to go off script. My kids grew up before they got access to any kinds of devices outdoors. I run a nature camp these days. I've been a longtime educator. I started at BCPS. I have a long family history of teaching and librarianship and things like that. The basic gist here, though, is that it's shocking to me to have to fight these things with my kids constantly. Essentially, once COVID happened, the landscape changed so dramatically. My kids got laptops at home in kindergarten, and they now are expected to carry laptops with them throughout the day at school. We found out about a month and a half ago that they were failing every class. And we only found that out by asking their teachers, asking actually the administrators how they were doing and why they were failing. We got reports back from every teacher that they were distracted by video games and YouTube on their school-issued laptops. We took away the school-issued laptops by request. Suddenly, they ended up with A's and B's. We gave them back their laptops at the end of this past holiday break, and we're back to, again, D's and E's. So they're being taken away again. It's the same problem. I really am excited that we have a state-level legislation happening about this kind of thing, and I really urge that we support this and push it forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much to this panel, and Mrs. Minor, I want to extend our condolences for your loss and thank your family for your nationwide advocacy.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I do see a question from Delegate Eversole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't get everybody's name, but the witness is sitting in the middle. You talked about storage in a secure location way, but this bill doesn't really say that. And I'm curious if you're sort of advocating for an amendment to that effect. This just says storage means in a manner determined by the county board that the device is not carried on the student's person. So this would mean like a student could put it in their locker if I read that. That'd be one option. So it sounded like you were going for more extreme sort of storage than that. Does that sound accurate?
Well, I think that's open, depending on the school district, but it has to be away from the student. The pilots that were that we witnessed last year, the impact was that students. Oh, sorry, is this for Bafo?
It's okay. He just wants to add in.
Yeah, you have the details.
He's going to pick up your answer.
But you know, essentially, they piloted off and away policy where it had to be off, had to be in the backpack. It didn't work. It fell apart.
I understand the significance. I was just pointing out that the bill's not picking that up exactly. So maybe the sponsor wants to speak to that.
Yeah, Delegate, I think you're looking at the non-amended version. The amended version.
I don't know how it would have copy of the amended version.
Yeah, exactly. The amended version does have that in there, which will reflect her comments.
Yeah. Never mind.
No problem.
There you go. Thank you, Madam Chair.
No problem. Any other questions? What we'll do is we do have our 2 virtual witnesses, so we'll hear from them, see if there are any additional questions, and then we'll close out this hearing. You can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Bizu Shifarao, and I am the campaign manager at Fair Play. We are a national nonprofit that works to enhance children's well-being by eliminating the exploitative and harmful business practices of marketers and big tech. I would like to thank the Ways and Means Committee for hosting this hearing on HB 525, the Maryland Phone Free Schools Act, and for providing me the opportunity to testify on this urgent issue. Over the past 2 years, Fair Play, in collaboration with similar organizations, have worked to pass comprehensive phone-free legislation in 19 states and in the District of Columbia. As tech companies design their products to maximize engagement, these policies ensure that students have a distraction-free learning environment. Phones and social media disrupt instruction, undermines teachers' ability to educate, and contribute to declines in students' social emotional development, especially as lunch and free time are spent on screens. Excessive phone use during school also increases exposure to serious harms, including bullying, sexual predators, content promoting suicide and self-harm, eating disorders, drugs, and dangerous challenges. We understand that Delegate Boafo has amended HB 525 to remove exceptions for emergency use and to add language ensuring devices are inaccessible during the school day. A bell-to-bell policy can create the conditions for real-life interactions and the ability to focus on learning in Maryland schools. Fair Play and our partners at the Phone Free Schools movement also offer free implementation toolkits that highlight the urgency of the problem and supports districts, administrators, and families in making this transition successful. In emergencies, safety experts agree students are safest when they are focused on instructions from school staff and not distracted by phones. We urge the committee to advance strong legislation and provide Maryland students the focused, connected school environment they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, and we have one final virtual witness. This is a favorable with amendments, and you can go ahead, sir.
Thank you for your opportunity to testify. My name is Jason Stoddard. I'm the president of the National Council of School Safety Directors and also a school safety director here in the state of Maryland. NCSSD is the largest organization in the world dedicated to school safety professionals. Our mission is to work with policymakers to advance common sense, fiscally responsible school safety legislation that solves problems, not simply creates the appearance of action. At NCSSD, we ground all of our school safety efforts with 4 pillars: positive school cultures, strong student body and staff relationships, a well-trained staff and student body, and the consistent application of the Student Code of Conduct that drives not only learning and reflection, but accountability. Any legislation should reinforce these pillars. To strengthen this bill, we respectfully recommend 4 things. First, statewide parent engagement. Some data suggests up to 70% of parents may not support cell phone data. Without appropriate funding, coordination, outreach, and education through MSDE or MCSS, compliance and consistency across the state will suffer. Secondly, restore meaningful funding. Maryland reduced the Safe Schools Grant Program from $10 million to $600,000 annually to be spread across the 24 jurisdictions in the state of Maryland. Simply adding new authorized expenses to this grant without restoring its funding will create another unfunded mandate, forcing districts to divert to direct resources from our core mission of education needs and potentially from teacher salary. Reestablish the $10 million funding would demonstrate the state's commitment to safe school initiatives. Third, ensure enforceable, workable accountability. Laws and rules without meaningful and progressive consequences are mere suggestions. Repeated violations should result in escalating logical consequences up to and including out-of-school suspension when appropriate. Fourth, protect all of our school staff. Enforcing cell phone bans will increase conflict. All staff responsible for maintaining safe and orderly schools, especially those designated as school safety employees under Maryland law, should have equal protection from retaliation by parents and students. We urge you to update Maryland statute, courts and judicial proceedings, Title 26,
Please wrap up, sir. Your 2 minutes.
To include
Your 2 minutes have expired. Please wrap up.
Maryland has the opportunity to lead with thoughtful and balanced legislation that supports educators with improved learning conditions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, sir, and thank you to everyone who's testified on this bill. Do we have any questions? All right, seeing none, that ends the hearing on House Bill 525. Thank you again for your time. And we will take the final bill of the day. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. House Bill 635, Delegate Miller.
And then we'll switch out. Sounds good. Okay, thank you. All right. All right, you ready? All right. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Ways and Means Committee. For the record, I am Delegate April Miller, representing District 4, Frederick County. I am here today to present House Bill 635, a common sense, bipartisan piece of legislation designed to modernize our child care workforce pipeline, protect our children, and support the small businesses that are the backbone of our economy. We cannot talk about Maryland's economy without talking about child care. In the 2024 State of the Economy report and subsequent briefs, Comptroller Brooke Learman described Maryland's child care industry as a market failure, and the data is sobering. We have provider loss. Since 2020, Maryland has lost over 1,200 licensed providers, a 15.5% decrease. We have a capacity gap, so we have a decline of more than 12,000 child care slots, leaving thousands of families in child care deserts. And, of course, the cost burden. For a single-parent family in Maryland, center-based infant care can consume a staggering 41% of their median income. When childcare is unavailable or unaffordable, our labor force participation drops, specifically among women whose participation remains below pre-pandemic levels. We have plenty of Marylanders who want to work, but they are sidelined because they cannot find a safe place for their children. And while the causes of the child care crisis are complex, House Bill 635 addresses a specific, often self-inflicted wound that's in our regulatory system, the background check bottleneck. Currently, when a child care provider finds a qualified, eager candidate, that candidate can be stuck in an administrative limbo for weeks and sometimes months. Under current regulations, new hires cannot be in a classroom until their full background check clears, of course. And for a small provider operating on a profit margin of less than 1%, having a vacant position means they cannot meet the state mandated ratios, which means they must turn children away, put on wait lists, close a classroom, or even shut down. House Bill 635 modernizes this process through two key mechanisms: a centralized processing unit. The bill requires the Maryland State Department of Education to establish a dedicated centralized unit for background check management and will end the inconsistent processing times that have been seen across different jurisdictions, and ensuring that red tape doesn't stand in the way of a job offer. Perhaps most importantly, this bill paves the way for portability. Currently, a worker who moves from a center in Frederick to a center in Montgomery County has to start the fingerprinting and background check process from scratch, paying the fees and waiting for the clearance all over again. House Bill 635 allows for a future passport model, which is the critical infrastructure needed to establish a child care substitute provider pool system, which this committee overwhelmingly supported last session. And for our providers, this legislation means faster hiring cycles and reduced administrative costs. It allows them to fill vacancies faster rather than waiting, keeping classrooms open and tuition stable. And for our workforce, it removes a financial and logistical barrier to job mobility. If a teacher finds a better opportunity or moves to a different part of the state, they shouldn't be penalized by a redundant bureaucratic process. So there is an amendment that will allow for a longer implementation period of time that was requested by the department, and one that is just a language fix. Maryland families are struggling, and our providers are hanging on by a thread. House Bill 635 is a practical step to streamline our workforce, maintain the highest safety standards for our children, and get Marylanders back to work. I urge a favorable report on House Bill 635. Do you want to go? Yep.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Josh Michael, President of the State Board of Education. And on behalf of the State Board and the Maryland State Department of Education, we're here in support of House Bill 635 with amendments. I want to thank Delegate Miller, Chair Wilkins, and Delegate Merrique North for your leadership and support in getting us to this bill. This bill streamlines background checks processing for child care providers without compromising safety standards. It supports workforce stability in child care classrooms, taking us down to 2-year-olds, and it provides flexibility for the state superintendent to elevate early childhood leadership within the department. Early childhood represents a significant portion of MSDE's work. Providing this flexibility ensures that early learning remains fully integrated into the agency-level decision-making alongside our K-12 system. And I'll turn it to Sarah Neville-Morgan, our Assistant Superintendent, to walk through operational provisions and the proposed amendments.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins and members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to speak here in support of HB 635 with amendments. Sarah Neville-Morgan. Building off what Dr. Michael just shared, HB 635 establishes a centralized unit to handle criminal background checks for child care providers. Currently, our licensing teams process nearly 78,000 checks each year, while overseeing more than 6,000 child care programs statewide. Centralizing this function and having dedicated staff focus on background checks will help speed up processing and let our regional licensing staff specialize in supporting safe, high-quality programs more on the ground. Centralizing background checks also supports other workforce goals. Through our preschool development grant, the Maryland State Department of Education is working with federal and state partners to make background checks portable across programs, allowing qualified educators to move safely between providers and ultimately for the creation of a substitute pool. Next, HB 635 expands probationary employment eligibility to allow qualified child care teachers to work with 2-year-olds, not just children who are 3 and 4. This practical workforce solution makes it easier for programs to hire enough teachers, fill open positions faster, and will keep care consistent for our youngest children. Finally, we've worked with the bill sponsors on 2 amendments to clarify that the unit would only serve our MSDE licensed child care programs and that it would be established by June 30th, 2027, allowing for careful planning and a budget neutral rollout. With these amendments, we respectfully request a favorable report of HB 635. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate Miller, for your leadership on this issue. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, honorable members. I'm Laura Wheeldryer, Executive Director of Maryland Family Network. My organization has long advocated for pretty much every aspect of child care, including improvements to the processes that ensure child protection. You have my written testimony, so I'm going to be very brief. Background checks are such a foundational part of child safety. If there is a way we can do it more efficiently by centralizing the work, then we are all for it. We look forward to participating in conversations with the sponsor and the subcommittee to ensure these processes don't overburden local licensing specialists who provide essential functions such as supporting compliance, conducting on-site inspections and investigating complaints, and working to create processes that continue to allow for innovations in the child care industry, like the eventual establishment of a substitute pool for child care providers. Thank you so much for your commitment to getting this right and ensuring those who care for our children have been appropriately vetted. We urge a favorable report.
Greetings, Chair and committee members. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I am RB Khan, and I have run childcare centers for over a decade. On the side, I'm also an immunologist and a multi-organ transplant surgeon. So if you guys, anybody need a liver, let me know. Be happy to help. Just meet me outside. But as a start, I want you to imagine this. I want you to imagine that you are a childcare provider, right? Imagine this. You are a childcare provider, and you have gone through the entire documentation, which is 9, 10, 11, 12 pieces of paper to start work. Now, I'm going to take the medical evaluation as an example. You have completed it, and now if you stay at the same center, you don't need another medical eval for 5 years. But by and by, down the road, another center opens up and gives you a better salary. So you move there and you apply for the job and you get it. Now, what happens is that if you go down the road, mysteriously, your susceptibility to disease increases so much that you have to see a physician right away for another medical evaluation. And yet, if you stayed at the center that you were originally at, you don't need it for 5 years. So these gaps in logic extend to almost every documentation that is needed. And as the distinguished panel has mentioned, portability is very, very critical. This repetition of documentation from center to center is unnecessary. It is burdensome, it is inefficient, and costly, immensely costly to both centers and state. The magnitude of the problem, I'll go very fast. My initial calculation shows 210,000 extra documents being processed. So the solution is to make sure that everything is portable and centralized, including all the documents, not just the fingerprint, so that we can save a lot of money and time for everybody.
I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, have we covered everyone on this panel? All right. Dr. Michael, are you here on behalf of Keisha Maxwell, or is Keisha Maxwell also here? Because I have Keisha Maxwell on my
Here
list.
with us, yes.
Okay, okay. All right, so that is this panel. We'll take the rest of the in-person, and it looks like our virtual is here in person potentially. So let's see if we have any questions. I will go to Delegate Polakovich-Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate Miller, for the bill. Sorry if I missed this, but the very first section of the bill where it removes the limitation on 3 deputy state superintendents of schools. Did somebody speak to why that changes in the bill? Just curious about the rationale.
I'll take it on. This is a provision that's been in the law for a long time, but as over the past 20 years, as early childhood has become a much more prominent part of the state education agency, we have not had room to really elevate early child within that because of the cap. So right now we have somebody over teaching and learning, we have somebody over assessment and accountability, we have somebody over finance and operations. And early childhood is embedded within teaching and learning. Across the country, we're seeing early childhood really elevated. We strongly believe it belongs at MSDE, but it really does, we believe, need to be elevated within that. So this change would allow us to do that.
So I'm curious then, so the bill as it came in just completely lifts the cap. Why not just then specify 4 instead of 3?
Happy to take that offline, I think, and talk about it further. I think, for us, some agencies have a cap, some do not. Gotcha. It's something that, we want to be cost neutral, but, we don't know what might come up in the future, and we think maximum flexibility at this point is wise, but definitely open to that conversation.
Thank you.
All right, I thought I had seen another question, but it looks like That's been satisfied, so that is it for this panel. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, next up, I have Keisha Maxwell, Ellie Colmers, Kelly Dwyer, Sarah Mickey, and if we have room for Christina, but we may not have room, I'm not sure.
Good afternoon. Thanks for sticking in with us here. For the record, I'm Ellie Colmers on behalf of SEIU Local 500, who represents over 20,000 working people in Maryland, including childcare providers, family childcare educators, and early childhood professionals. We strongly support this bill. As the previous panel has noted, that HB 635 strengthens and standardizes the criminal history record checks process, and by clarifying requirements, centralizing oversight within the department, the bill helps eliminate gaps, inconsistencies, and delays that can create confusion for providers and uncertainty for parents. Our members want strong standards. They want families to feel confident choosing licensed childcare, and they want a system that works, one that is transparent, timely, and fair. This bill moves Maryland in that direction. By reinforcing safeguards and streamlining the process, the bill strengthens public trust in licensed child care programs and supports the dedicated professionals who serve Maryland's families every day. For these reasons, we support the bill. Thank you.
I'm favorable with amendments, so I don't know if you want me to.
Oh, I'm just favorable. Okay, great. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Chris Push, Executive Director on behalf of the Maryland State Child Care Association, co-chair of the Office of Child Care Advisory Council, and strong support of House Bill 635. This bill is about one thing: keeping children safe. Maryland's child care workforce is dedicated and professional, but we all know that safety has to be the top priority. House Bill 635 strengthens that commitment by making sure that anyone who will have direct contact with children in a child care facility goes through a thorough criminal history records check before they're hired. That's just common sense and aligns with recommendations from the recent independent OPEGA audit of MSD's licensing procedures. This bill also creates a clearer, more efficient process for providers. One of the biggest improvements in the establishment of a centralized unit within MSDE to manage all criminal history check information. Right now, providers often face delays and inconsistent communication. Centralizing this work will streamline the process, reduce administrative burdens, and help child care programs hire staff more quickly while maintaining strong safety standards. House Bill 635 also clarifies probationary employment rules for first-time child care teachers in certain centers. This strikes a balance protecting children while recognizing the real workforce challenges providers face, and the bill gives MSD the flexibility it needs to provide stronger oversight and support across the child care system. At the end of the day, Maryland families deserve confidence that child care programs meet the highest safety standards. This bill will not only protect children, it also supports providers by making the compliance process clearer, more consistent, and more efficient. That means more time focused on quality care and early learning and less time navigating administrative hurdles. MSTCA respectfully urges a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins and members of the committee. I'm Sarah Mirsky-Mickey. I'm the Deputy Director of the Baltimore Jewish Council, which represents the Associated Jewish Community Federation of Baltimore, all its agencies, including our Jewish community centers, as well as the dozens of Jewish child care centers within greater Baltimore. We are in total support of HB 635 in terms of its intent and the centralization of background checks. However, we are concerned with the 45-day turnaround time that it gives the state, as well as the fiscal note as it is written. For 45 days, you're in a daycare, almost none of our daycares, we have the lowest ratio rates in the country, which is great. But if a daycare provider suddenly gets ill, and generally daycares don't have an additional teacher to fit those ratios, that classroom shuts down. That classroom could be shut down for a minimum month and a half, means those parents potentially are losing those jobs, those daycares potentially are losing all of those clients, and that could potentially cause more fiscal issues than potentially funding this as it needs to be funded, and to also have a lower amount of days. What we were asking for is 5 days to notify the individual and 10 instead of 45 days to notify the institution. So business days, so about 2 weeks for them to get that information, which is still really hard for both parents and for organizations, but is more doable. And one thing just to note is that there was a similar bill in 2023 with the Department of Health for counselors and for their background checks, and we worked with the department, and they were fine and has passed for 3 business days. The issue with the fiscal note is that we see is that it says there is no fiscal note. However, MSDE advises that the unit required by the bill can likely be established, but also notes additional support is probably needed for greater staffing. And also it authorizes, that we talked, deputy superintendents, but it doesn't give any funding for that. And we see that if this bill passes as is, in a year after implementation, they're gonna come back and say, we can't do this in the even 45 days. We're gonna need the funding. So for these reasons, we ask for a favor report with the amendments. Thank you.
I'm making sure I got to everyone. Okay, wonderful. The end of the day, I get a little tired and slower with it. Okay, Delegate Roberson with the question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just question: has the bill sponsor considered your amendment, and is she supportive?
We've talked to the bill sponsor about it. I don't want to speak for her.
Okay. I might suggest you all talk offline so we can.
We have talked. Yeah, I just want to speak for her.
Yes.
Okay. You are
Yes, we're in discussion about it.
Okay, you're in discussion. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Your question's been satisfied? Sure. I will say Ms. Neville Morgan took the question right out of my head, because I was going to ask about what seems like a long time frame for a status in 10 days. So just the notification of the status is 10 days. That seems like a very long time. And then it says within 45 days after submission that they notify of the eligibility. So it does seem like a long process. So I did want to ask the practitioners that are on this panel to comment on the time frame and how in reality this would work.
Can I also comment that from the JCC perspective?
Sure.
So right now, because the JCC is a large entity, we have access to CJIS background reports. So we get those reports back within 24 to 48 hours. There are additional requirements for schools. We have for early childhood, we have a system that we use, a third-party company. And generally that takes about a week to get the rest of the information. It can sometimes take, they've said max 2 weeks because someone's delayed in a report getting back, but that's kind of the max that they've seen in their third-party company that they use for the rest of the reports.
Okay, and I would just, an educator or teacher cannot go into a classroom or assistant teacher without a criminal background check, and waiting for that, you have to be watchdogged in a classroom so that you can't be independent supervising children. So the timeline that it takes is very difficult. That's why the delays create, we lose candidates, or we have people that need to make more money and be independent supervising children at a higher level. So it is, it's a difficult situation, but we do understand that there's federal, state, local wrap back from other states. We understand this is not an easy process, and we don't want to put anyone in with children if we don't have all of that done. So it's a double-edged sword, we understand, but we appreciate MSD coming to the table and making these opportunities. And to Delegate Miller, again, thank you so much for your leadership on this.
Sarah Neville Morgan from MSD. Just to provide a little bit more on background checks, as some people have noted, there are actually federal requirements. So the 45-day is part of the federal requirement because of an additional piece that happened through federal law for the Child Care and Development Fund, where we have to do an out-of-state check. So we do the 45 days in order to allow other states to give us information. That only happens if one of the candidates has lived out of state in the past 5 years. If they've only lived in Maryland, we don't need to do that. Most of our background checks are completed in less than 45 days. The 45 days is there to allow for that cross-state background check. And as Ms. Push just referenced, there also is a wrap back. So there are multiple steps to a criminal background check, fingerprinting, child abuse and prevention, and the wrap back as well of the out-of-state clearance. So it is not something with all of those pieces that is within MSDE's authority to actually control.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for the clarification. My apologies for mixing up the two Sarahs as well. And Delegate Miller,
Yeah, I just wanted to.
you and I are in between the end of the day, so I'll
We
let
are,
you have the final
I know.
word.
I just wanted to add in, we are looking at like a streamlined approach for the emergency situation. So we are in different discussions on how to make at least part of it be faster without cutting any safety corners.
Wonderful. Thank you for the explanation. Thank you to this panel and all the teamwork on this really important legislation. Seeing Delia Wims.
There he goes.
There we go.
Only have 30 seconds, because Madam Speaker, on Monday, said that they wanted the interns or the pages to come and view. 3 of our pages just came in, and I wanted to give them a hand. Yeah.
Well, welcome to our pages. Thank you for visiting us. We truly appreciate it. And this ends the bill hearing on House Bill 635 and the bill hearings for the day. Thank you, colleagues.